Must have slipped away in the chaos. Lucian nodded, saying nothing more. Don't worry, cuz. If she dares to show up again, I'll make sure she regrets it. Ben said with a mouthful of chips, laughing proudly. Bang! The roof of the rust bucket suddenly shuddered under a heavy impact. Ben froze, his face turning pale. No way! Don't tell me it's that evil woman again. Wow, nice going, doofus. So where's your big alien hero now? Gwen snapped, irritation flaring as energy began to glow in her hands. Ben hunched his shoulders, glancing sheepishly at the Omnitrix still glowing red. He gave a nervous laugh. Still recharging. Lucian, what about your watch? Grandpa Max asked, frowning. With the enemy still unknown, charging out blindly would be reckless. Lucian shook his head. His Omnitrix wasn't charged either. Screech! A piercing sound ripped through the air as something clawed at the roof. The screech of tearing metal made everyone's skin crawl. Then rip! The top layer of the rust bucket's roof peeled away under a single, sharp claw, revealing a horrifying figure. Her skin was deep red, her eyes sealed by a strange crimson membrane. Mechanical parts were embedded all over her body like armor plating, radiating an ominous, unstable energy. It really is that evil woman. But why does she look like this? Ben gasped. Gwen's eyes widened. I'll bet my mana that's not a costume. On the roof, Rojo's lips twisted into a smirk. The laser cannons on her shoulders began to hum and rotate, locking onto the people below. None of you are getting away, she hissed, raising her weapon to fire. Grandpa! Break now! Lucian shouted. They couldn't risk being trapped inside the vehicle. Grandpa Max reacted instantly, slamming his foot down on the brake. The rust bucket screeched as it swerved violently across the narrow mountain road, tires carving deep black arcs into the asphalt. The RV came to a halt right at the edge of the guardrail, mere inches from a deadly drop. Meanwhile, the half-mechanical Rojo had been thrown forward by the sudden momentum, tumbling hard across the ground ahead. She pushed herself up, glaring back at them with seething fury. You dare do this to me? Fine, then die for it. Her shoulder cannon rotated again, locking squarely onto the rust bucket. Beep! A familiar chime sounded from Lucian's wrist. The Omnitrix's red glow shifted to bright green. A mechanical life form, hey! Lucian muttered, turning the dial rapidly as the holographic icons flickered before his eyes. 4 arms. Swamp fire. Humongousaur. All strong, but not the right pick. The display shifted again, landing on upgrade. You'll do. A spark of confidence flashed in Lucian's eyes as he slammed his hand down on the watch. Chapter 76, Chapter 76, Squid Face? Thud. A flicker of ghostly green light flashed and vanished in an instant. Inside the rust bucket, a small black and green creature appeared, its body crackling with electricity as it floated in midair. It stared at its hands in confusion before letting its head droop. Buzz shock. It muttered softly. Cool. Ben exclaimed, eyes lighting up the moment he recognized the alien. That's Buzz Shock. The one that chased Ghost Freak all over last time. This guy's awesome. Gwen's face was pale as she conjured streams of water bubbles, layering them in front of the rust bucket to block Rojo's laser blasts. Each crimson beam shattered bubble after bubble with terrifying force. The drain on Gwen's magic was immense. Sweat beaded across her forehead as her trembling arms struggled to hold up. She was moments from collapse. "Cuz, help me," Gwen said through gritted teeth, her voice tight with strain. Buzz Shock grinned, then transformed into a dart of green lightning. In a flash, it shot out of the rust bucket, hurtling straight toward Rojo. What the hell is that thing? Rojo's eyes widened in alarm. She immediately stopped firing at the rust bucket, turning her cannons toward the incoming blur. Whoosh! 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 A barrage of crimson lasers erupted from her shoulder-mounted weapon, each beam laced with deadly energy as it rained toward Buzzshock. He he he. Buzzshock zipped through the air, twisting and darting like a streak of living electricity. The lasers missed one after another. Its speed was too fast to track with the naked eye. In a blink, it was right in front of Rojo. How is this possible? What kind of freak are you? Rojo gasped, her face twisted with disbelief. To come out unharmed from that kind of onslaught, what kind of monster could do that? Buzzshock raised one claw and fired a blinding bolt of green lightning. It cut through the air like a scorching blade and slammed directly into Rojo's chest. She barely had time to raise her iron claws in defense before the blast struck. Electricity surged through her body, charring her armor black. Her crimson hair curled and frizzed, smoking as she staggered back. Ah! Rojo screamed, coughing up a puff of thick black smoke. Ha 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 ha! Buzzshock laughed, eyes glinting with mischief. I'm done with this. Flames ignited from the boosters on her back, and she shot into the air, vanishing into the forest canopy at high speed. She knew perfectly well she couldn't outfly that electric gremlin in a straight chase. Staying exposed in the sky would only get her fried. Diving into the dense forest was her only shot at escape. Watching her flee, Buzzshock flashed once more, turning into a streak of green lightning that weaved through the trees in hot pursuit. By the roadside guardrail, Grandpa Max wiped the sweat from his brow as he worked under the blazing sun, struggling to replace the rust bucket's blown tires. Though he had managed to shake off Rojo earlier, the intense friction from their wild ride had shredded 3 tires in a row. Fixing them would take time, and on this narrow mountain road, a delay meant risking a traffic jam. Still, Max wasn't too worried about Lucian. His combat instincts were sharp, and he was far more composed than Ben. Besides, with Buzzshock's speed, even if he couldn't beat the mechanized Rojo, he could easily get away. Inside the rust bucket, Ben kept fiddling with the Omnitrix. Doofus, is that thing still not charged? Gwen sighed, wiping sweat from her brow. Before Ben could answer, the Omnitrix let out a sharp beep, switching from red to green. Hero time! Ben grinned and bolted out of the rust bucket, diving straight into the dense forest. Just as Gwen moved to follow, Grandpa Max's voice called from behind. Gwen, give me a hand here. He was crouched by the tires, wrench in hand. Gwen lowered her eyes, letting out a resigned sigh. Okay, Grandpa. She turned back once more, gazing toward the forest. Faint flashes of green lightning pulsed through the trees, and unease flickered across her face. Amid the dense forest, Rojo tore through the sea of green, slashing wildly at the branches and vines in her way. Her iron claws sliced through the foliage with brutal force, scattering leaves and grass that drifted silently to the forest floor. I'm done with this. What a useless watch. That stupid squid face can get it himself. Rojo snarled, seething with frustration. It was that voice in her head that had dragged her into this mess. She'd nearly been fried by that lightning brat because of him. A deep, thunderous voice suddenly reverberated in her mind. The next instant, everything went dark. It felt as if she'd been pulled into the vast emptiness of space. Before her, a massive octopus-like head took form, its skin a sickly green, its face twisted in fury. Who did you just call Squid Face? Vilgax bellowed, his eyes burning with rage. Rojo, tiny and powerless before him, clenched her fists to stifle her fear and shouted back, "Did I say anything wrong? You never told me that guy was this strong. He almost killed me out there." If she was doomed either way, she might as well speak her mind. Vilgax let out a cold, rumbling snort. "Earthling, you'd better retrieve that watch quickly. Otherwise, I'll make you beg for death." As his words fell, unbearable pain surged through Rojo's skull worse than before. "I give up, but if I get you that watch, you'll give me back my freedom," she gasped, clutching her head in agony. "No problem," Vilgax replied icily. Moments later, the pain receded like a fading tide, leaving Rojo trembling but conscious. That guy's too strong, how the hell am I supposed to steal that watch from him, she muttered under her breath. Crack! Before she could think further, a surge of green lightning tore through the air, splitting the silence as it came crashing toward her with terrifying speed. If you'd like to support my work and unlock advanced chapters, you can follow me on Patreon. Up to 50 chapters ahead for now. Patreon.com/pinksnake. Chapter 77, Chapter 77, 3 Choices. So you were here. The light flickered, and Buzzshock appeared on a rock ahead. You just don't quit, do you? I'm not someone you can mess with. Rojo snarled. She raised the cannon on her wrist and fired a dazzling beam of violet light. The blast tore through the leaves and shot straight toward Buzzshock. The blinding glow expanded rapidly in Buzzshock's eyes, moments from striking. Not bad speed, but you're still lacking in power. Buzzshock extended a hand, unleashing a surge of green lightning that wrapped around the searing violet beam, grinding it away in midair until it vanished completely. What had been a devastating blast dissolved into waves of heat that slowly faded into nothing. Seeing this, Rojo growled and shifted her iron claws into a chainsaw. With one powerful swing, she cleaved a nearby tree in two, seized the severed trunk, and hurled it straight toward Buzzshock, aiming to crush him into dust. The massive black shadow of the falling tree swallowed the light below, wind roaring as the trunk came crashing down with terrifying force. Buzzshock only chuckled. He stood calmly atop the rock, unflinching, as if patiently waiting for the tree to hit. Still laughing. Rojo's fury flared, her chest rising and falling sharply. We'll see if you can keep laughing after this. Anyone who crosses Rojo never has a good end. Boom! A deafening crash shook the forest as the heavy trunk slammed down where Buzzshock had stood, shattering the rock beneath it. Dirt, stones, and green leaves burst upward, swept high into the air. Even after burying him beneath the wreckage, Rojo wasn't convinced. She unleashed her full firepower. Her shoulder-mounted lasers rotated, the cannons on her wrists flaring to life. A relentless barrage of scarlet beams rained down on the shattered trunk, determined to obliterate everything underneath. Boom! 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 The explosions echoed through the mountains, sending birds and beasts fleeing in every direction, terrified by the chaos. After a long barrage, Rojo finally stopped, panting heavily. The great tree was gone. Nothing remained but scorched fragments and piles of ash scattered across the clearing. The nearby forest had suffered as well. The once vibrant trees now stood blackened and broken, smoke curling up from their smoldering remains. Rojo surveyed the destruction with a mocking smirk. Let's see if you're still alive after that, little lightning freak. SSSZZZT. The faint crackle of electricity buzzed through the air. It was soft at first but grew sharper, ringing in Rojo's ears. Then her eyes widened in disbelief. From beneath the scorched ash, streams of black energy surged upward, spiraling into the air before splitting apart into countless buzzshocks. Hundreds of tiny electric creatures floated above her, green lightning crackling across their bodies. They all stared down at Rojo with mischievous grins, emitting shrill, piercing screeches. The sound shook the forest. Trees swayed violently, leaves raining down like green snow as if the entire forest were bowing to the god of lightning above. Rojo's face went pale with terror. Fighting one buzzshock had been nearly impossible. Hundreds were a nightmare. The swarm hovered in midair, exchanging curious glances before raising their small hands, as though testing their own existence. It was a strange sensation. For Buzzshock, it felt as though his body had been split into hundreds of fragments, yet there was no pain. Each part remained linked, bound by an invisible thread. With a single thought, he knew he could pull them back together. But then, the light around the many Buzzshocks began to dim, like lanterns running out of power. Lucian's expression hardened. His gaze swept across the forest. It made sense. Maintaining hundreds of bus shock copies demanded an enormous amount of electricity. Without enough energy, they couldn't last long. He recalled the words once spoken by the blue-shirted park manager back at Sparksville. The more power, the greater the strength. Faced with the swarm of buzz shock surrounding her, Rojo panicked. The thrusters on her back roared to life, spewing flames as she shot into the sky, desperate to flee the area. "You're ruthless," she snarled through gritted teeth, regret flickering in her eyes. If she hadn't hurled that tree earlier, none of this would have happened. But just as she was about to escape, dozens of dim buzz shock clones shot forward, swarming her in a tight formation. They crackled with blue-green electricity, weaving their power together into a glowing net of lightning that trapped her completely. Meanwhile, the rest of the buzz shock raced toward a nearby power tower, greedily absorbing electricity like whales gulping down seawater. Within seconds, Rojo was bound tight inside the electric cage. She raised her laser cannon, firing crimson blasts again and again. Each time she tore open a gap in the net, it was instantly repaired by the swarming buzz shock. The repairs came at a cost. Some of the smaller buzz shock grew dim and sluggish, their light fading, while others completely burned out, dispersing into static and vanishing into the air. Fortunately, the hundreds that had finished charging returned just in time. They chattered gleefully, releasing streams of electricity from their tiny claws to recharge their exhausted comrades. Power surged through the air, and the dim lights blazed bright once more. Soon, more than 500 buzz shock hovered densely in the sky, their bodies brimming with power. The entire forest pulsed with their energy. Even Vilgax himself would have struggled against such a force. "Let me out!" Rojo screamed. "I was wrong, little monster. No, big brother. Please, let me go. I'll do anything you want. I'll serve you forever." Pride meant nothing when death was staring her in the face. Better to live and plot revenge later. If he dared humiliate her, she'd bide her time, and strike back when the chance came. The countless buzz shock shook their heads in unison, movements eerily synchronized. Then, as one, they raised their arms. Above the forest, a colossal sphere of lightning began to form, blindingly bright, its radiance dimming even the sun. Rojo's eyes widened in horror. Her face drained of color as tears welled up. "No, please. Don't. I'm begging you." Just then, a familiar digital chime echoed in Buzzshock's mind. "Ding, alien hacker mission triggered. Suppress yourself and do not destroy the controlled Rojo. Complete this mission to receive a mysterious reward." Buzzshock froze. His glowing eyes narrowed before the massive lightning bomb faded away. The countless clones dissolved into streaks of light, merging back into his core body. The crushing pressure in the air vanished. Rojo collapsed to her knees, gasping for breath. "Thank you, little monster. I'll make sure to repay you," she said, patting her chest, still shaken though behind her trembling words. A treacherous glint flickered in her eyes. "Shut up." Buzzshock shot her a cold glance, then flicked his wrist. A surge of electricity wrapped around her, forming a glowing restraint vest that pinned her to the ground. She couldn't move an inch. His body crackled with raw lightning, power surging through him like a living storm. But Lucian's expression turned contemplative. This mission was different from all the ones before. Previously, completing the system's objectives had required defeating an enemy or saving someone. Yet this time, simply letting go of his killing intent seemed to be enough. Was it because of something connected to the original timeline? The thought lingered. Buzzshock frowned, unable to make sense of it. "As a reward for relinquishing yourself, no random hero will be generated for this mission. Instead, 3 alien cards have been prepared. Choose one to unlock as your new alien hero." A cascade of mechanical tones echoed through his mind. 3 holographic cards appeared before Lucian, glowing softly as they floated in the air. When he saw the images on them, his pulse quickened. "Big chill. Brainstorm. Echo Echo. Chapter 78, Chapter 78, The Choice. Lucian was quite familiar with these three alien heroes. Big Chill, covered in icy blue, resembled a celestial moth when flying. When its wings retracted, however, it took on the form of a mysterious, cloaked figure. It possessed abilities like flight, freezing, and phasing, making it a formidable fighter, though it did come with some side effects on the user's body. Unlike Ghost Freak, Big Chill's phasing form was visible. It concealed its body within another dimension to evade enemy attacks, making it untouchable unless struck by attacks with spatial properties. Ghost Freak, on the other hand, dispersed his molecules to widen the gaps between them, allowing him to pass through solid walls. But compared to Big Chill, Ghost Freak was easier to hit, though he could turn invisible, giving him his own edge. Both had their strengths, and how much power they could unleash depended entirely on how skillfully the user wielded them. Brainstorm, by contrast, was a boastful genius who introduced himself as a master of both intellect and combat. His shell was bright red, making him look like a giant, feisty crab. Despite his arrogance, his intelligence was undeniable, though slightly below gray matters. It still ranked among the highest in the galaxy. He possessed immense intellect and psychic abilities. When in danger, Brainstorm could open his shell to reveal a swollen pink brain, generating a psychic barrier to block attacks or firing a powerful brainwave shock cannon. Echo Echo appeared as a small white child wearing an MP3 player, but its true form was a sentient cluster of sound waves. It had the power to create duplicates, emit ultrasonic attacks, and use echolocation. Its duplication ability, however, was very different from Ditto's. Ditto's clones shared all pain and injuries if one clone died, so did the original. Echo Echo, on the other hand, did not share pain. As long as one duplicate survived, he could instantly regenerate at the same spot without dying. After some thought, Lucian ruled out Brainstorm and began weighing his options between the other two. Both Big Chill and Echo Echo were highly capable in battle, leaving him torn between them. But soon, Lucian made his decision. He still had plenty of chances to unlock other alien genes later, there was no need to rush this one. However, he didn't plan to unlock it just yet. Each time he gained a new hero, the Omnitrix granted him a seamless transformation, no charge time, instant morphing. He planned to save that opportunity for when he truly needed it. Just as Lucian reached his conclusion, the nearby bushes rustled suddenly. His eyes narrowed, and lightning crackled in his palm, ready to strike at a moment's notice. Whoosh! Ben Tennyson burst out of the bushes, weeds tangled in his hair, panting heavily and drenched in sweat. Whether it was because of the angle or Buzzshock's small size, Ben immediately spotted Rojo lying on the ground but failed to notice his cousin. "You wicked woman! What did you do to my cousin?" He sprinted forward, racing right past Buzzshock. Without hesitation, he slammed his hand down on the Omnitrix, cycling through forms as he prepared to give Rojo a serious beating. "No!" Rojo shook her head frantically, her face filled with panic. But the electric vest held her firmly to the ground, leaving her completely immobilized. She could only stare helplessly as the kid approached step by step. "Ben, stop!" Buzzshock flashed into a streak of light, darting toward him. Thud! A surge of green light erupted, instantly lighting up the surroundings. Ben glanced down at his black and green arm, its surface gleaming with a sleek, mechanical glow. He groaned, clutching his head in frustration. "Oh, come on! I was going for Diamond Head, not upgrade." Buzzshock paused, floating behind the upgrade. Well, at least the busted watch worked properly this time. Under his direction, upgrade flowed onto Rojo's half-mechanical body, beginning the process of restoring her to normal. As a techno-organic being, upgrade could merge with both inanimate machines and living cybernetic systems, though the more intelligent the target, the harder it was to control. Fortunately, thanks to Lucian's earlier conditioning, Rojo didn't show even the slightest hint of resistance. At first, she squirmed uncomfortably. The slimy, liquid-like texture of Upgrade clinging to her skin made her tense and uneasy. After a while, Upgrade's body melted back into liquid metal and slid off her like a receding tide. Clatter! Dark, metallic parts fell away from Rojo's body, scattering across the ground. Her skin slowly regained its natural color, and the crimson substance that had covered her eyes lost its energy, drying up and disintegrating into the air. Upgrade reformed into human shape, pressing a hand to his head as if lost in thought. While he had been merged with Rojo, he'd caught a fleeting glimpse of something, a massive octopus-like head. After restoring her to normal, Lucian handed Rojo over to the police. No matter how much she begged or promised to serve him loyally, he didn't budge. What could she possibly offer him anyway? Back on the mountain road, Grandpa Max had already finished repairing the rust bucket. Once he confirmed that both of them were safe, he smiled and nodded. Then, the group set off on their journey once again. If you'd like to support my work and unlock advanced chapters, you can follow me on Patreon. Up to 50 chapters ahead for now. Patreon.com/pinksnake. Chapter 79, Chapter 79, Zombozo's Traveling Circus of Laughs. A week later, in a small town. The full moon hung high, its hazy light spreading across the road like a thin veil, casting a pale, eerie glow that made the place seem cold and deserted. The rust bucket rolled slowly along the rural road. Yellowed leaves drifted through the air, mixed with a few colorful ribbons that fluttered and danced in the wind. Houses and shops on both sides had their doors tightly shut, windows pitch black without a hint of light. Only the distant night sky shimmered now and then with bursts of color, as if a grand performance was taking place there, forming a sharp contrast to the stillness around them. It was already 11 p.m. Ben pressed his face to the car window, frowning. Why's the whole town empty? And those lights, you don't think UFOs took everyone, do you? Doofus, look over here. Gwen pointed at a road sign, smiling. Zombozo's circus is in town. That's awesome. She hadn't seen a circus in years, and now that there was a chance, she wasn't about to miss it. Grandpa Max's eyes lit up from the driver's seat. I bet it'll be great. Come on, Grandpa's taking you to the show. Ben quickly shook his head. No way. That's kid stuff. Doofus, like you're not a kid, Gwen shot back, hands on her hips. The circus is fun, and we're going tonight. Who knows when we'll get another chance? Oh please, you're acting like one of the clowns yourself. Ben shrugged, then quickly changed the subject. It's late. We should just find a place to rest. Gwen raised an eyebrow. Ben, what's up with you today? You're not usually like this. Lucian, sitting in the passenger seat, suddenly opened his eyes. A glint of cold light flashed through his dark pupils. Ben didn't want to go? That wouldn't do. Lucian knew the reason. If Ben kept running from it, that fear would stay with him forever. The only way to overcome it was to face it head-on, to fight poison with poison. Lucian turned his head slightly and gave a faint smile. Ben, you're not scared, are you? A superhero afraid of a circus? That always worked on Ben. Without a little provocation, he'd never agree. Sure enough, Ben froze, his face stiffening. Who said I'm scared? This hero fears nothing. Fine, let's go. He lowered his head, clenching his fists, muttering something under his breath. Following the bright lights, Grandpa Max, his grey hair catching the glow of the headlights, steered the rust bucket carefully down the road. Before long, they arrived at the circus grounds. The place was packed. Brilliant lights, colorful lasers, and an ocean of excited voices filled the air. Nearly the entire town had shown up. For this quiet, remote town, a circus like this came once in a decade. Best of all, admission was free. No tickets, no fees, a free show was always irresistible. Soon, Lucian and the others parked and joined the crowd for Zombozo's performance. After a bit of pushing and squeezing, they managed to get front row seats. The place was overflowing, but when a child nearby suddenly felt sick and was taken home by his parents, a few spots opened up just in time for them. Luckily, Lucian had been standing right there, otherwise, they would have been stuck at the back. Each of them grabbed a bucket of popcorn and settled into their seats, waiting for the show to begin. Under the dazzling lights, Ben's eyes were glued to the clown model hanging above. Its blood-red nose, jagged yellow teeth, and sly, menacing eyes made his neck tense up and his breathing quicken. Lucian caught it from the corner of his eye. He pointed at the clown and shook his finger, signaling that it wasn't real. But Ben still looked uneasy. Seeing that, Lucian exhaled quietly. Ben had to face this himself, only then could he overcome it. On stage, the host in a red tuxedo, with a long curled mustache, grinned and gestured animatedly as he introduced the next act. "Ladies and gentlemen, and all our dear little friends, next up is the star attraction of our circus of laughs." Bam! Fireworks exploded at the side of the stage, showering the area in dazzling light as a towering, muscular man slowly stepped into view. He is the formidable powerhouse of a man, Thumbskull. As the MC finished speaking, Thumbskull pulled a steel pipe from behind his back. With a deep, guttural growl, he bent the pipe clean in half with raw strength, showing off his tremendous power. He gave a goofy grin and casually tossed the bent pipe aside. Suddenly, a lock of crimson hair snaked out, wrapping around the pipe and flinging it neatly into a trash can. All eyes turned in the direction of the movement. There stood a slender young woman with long, flowing red hair that moved like living serpents, swaying even without wind. She had used her hair to throw the pipe into the trash, and that supernatural display of power instantly drew thunderous applause and cheers from the crowd. "This is Frightwig. Who knows what dangerous power lies beneath that beautiful exterior," the host declared passionately, then turned to the other side. "And now, the final member of our trio. He is the arrogant and treacherous Acid Breath." A thin, masked man staggered forward under the lights. He removed his mask, revealing a mouth full of jagged yellow teeth, his breath so foul it seemed to taint the air itself. Splash! A wave of nauseating yellow gas burst from his mouth, instantly corroding the trash can before him. The steel pipe inside dissolved with it, melting into a pool of foul, bubbling sludge. The audience erupted with excitement, clapping and cheering at the bizarre and spectacular performance. Their voices blended into a single roar of enthusiasm, the whole tent brimming with laughter and joy. "How disgusting!" Gwen wrinkled her delicate brows. "That acid breath guy's mouth is worse than a 100-year-old septic tank." "This kind of performance is a rare treat," Grandpa said with a kind smile, completely unfazed. Lucian nodded. "That's how circuses are, strange and full of surprises. But I think the real main act hasn't appeared yet." "How do you know that, cuz?" Gwen asked softly, blinking her bright eyes as she looked straight at Lucian. "Just a hunch," Lucian replied with a faint smile, not elaborating further. In the original story, the circus had 4 major oddballs. 3 had already shown up, which meant the last one should be Zombozo. After displaying their individual talents, the trio exited the stage one by one. The host's lips curled into a mysterious smile. "Ladies and gentlemen, our next performer is the second in command of the Circus of Laughs, the Queen of Clowns herself." "Queen?" Lucian's eyes narrowed. That character hadn't appeared in the original storyline. Byakuya. Amid a burst of fireworks, a graceful figure slowly stepped out from the back. She was young and stunningly beautiful, her twin ponytails of blue and white swaying lightly as she walked. Her tall, elegant figure exuded charm and allure with every movement. This is the queen of the clown world. Clown Girl, Eliza. Chapter 80, The Clown Queen. On the dazzling stage, a graceful figure stood with her arms raised high, bathed in thunderous applause. Clown Queen Eliza, her skin pale as snow and her charm unmistakable, snapped her fingers with a crisp sound. Snap! Behind her, brilliant fireworks burst open, and several towering iron cages appeared through the smoke. Inside each cage loomed massive shadows, as if terrifying beasts were waiting to be revealed. When the haze cleared, the audience finally saw what was within. For a moment, they were stunned into silence, then erupted into cheers so loud they seemed to shake the sky itself. Lucian's eyes narrowed. Inside those reinforced cages were savage beasts, baboons, lions, tigers, rhinos, even an elephant. He recalled that this character hadn't appeared in the original story. But to be the second in command of the Circus of Laughs, Eliza clearly wasn't ordinary. Seeing the animals, Gwen let out a soft, delighted laugh, her voice like the ringing of silver bells. "'Cuz, look! That white tiger's so cute! And that elephant, its trunk is so long," she said with a bright smile, speaking excitedly to Lucian. Lucian only nodded, his gaze fixed on Eliza, curious to see what kind of power she possessed. Grandpa Max propped his chin on his hand. "An animal act, hey? I doubt it's that simple. If it were just a normal circus performance, any group could do it. But as one of the world's most famous circuses, the Circus of Laughs had to have something far more impressive up its sleeve. And since the trio had already opened the show, Eliza, as the next performer, would surely deliver something spectacular." "Really? She looks kinda dumb just like Gwen," Ben said with a lazy grin. Turns out clowns weren't that scary after all. The MC raised the microphone and shouted enthusiastically, "Now, please welcome our Queen of Clowns as she brings you a stunning visual feast." The audience exploded into waves of applause, thunderous and endless, echoing through the tent as if it could shake the clouds above. Lucian sat calmly in the front row, quietly waiting for the Clown Queen's act to begin. Click! With a faint sound, every light on the stage went dark, plunging the space into complete blackness. The crowd murmured in confusion. Then, with a flash, the lights blazed back on, focused directly on Eliza. Her crimson lips curled into a captivating smile as she turned gracefully, walking toward the iron cages behind her. The golden stage lights followed her elegant steps, illuminating the massive beasts inside. Roar! A white tiger suddenly lunged forward, baring its blood-red fangs as it let out a thunderous roar. The audience flinched, their scalps tingling from instinctive fear, a primal reaction that needed no explanation. Lucian felt the air tremble with the sound, his eardrums aching from the sheer force of it. Sitting in the front row, they took the full brunt of the tiger's roar. Gwen clapped her hands over her ears, wincing. "Okay. I said the white tiger was cute earlier. I take it back." Ben groaned and covered his head, gritting his teeth at the deafening sound. Grandpa Max, however, remained completely unbothered. Reclining comfortably in his seat with his hands behind his head, he even let out a yawn. On stage, Eliza stood before the ferocious white tiger, calm and unshaken. "Good boy, I'm your master, and you must obey my commands." As she spoke, her eyes glowed pink, the light reflecting in the white tiger's pupils. The once ferocious beast instantly turned docile, like an adorable kitten. It let Eliza rub its head without the slightest hint of anger. "Looks like some kind of enchantment ability," Lucian murmured to himself. Such psychic attacks were extremely troublesome, the slightest carelessness could leave one vulnerable. Especially for those with unstable minds, it could be deadly. The other animals were similarly affected, one after another falling under Eliza's control and beginning to obey her commands. Cool. Ben's eyes widened. So this is a clown's act? How fascinating. Lucian stayed silent, because the main attraction hadn't appeared yet. If Ben saw it, he probably wouldn't be talking like that. Soon, Clown Queen Eliza guided the massive beasts into a classic circus routine. She tossed a colorful ball to the baboon, which roared and flung it to the elephant, passing it along from beast to beast in perfect succession. Mid-performance, Eliza flipped onto the white tiger's back, leaping through several blazing hoops before landing with perfect poise. The audience erupted in wild cheers, excitement peaking to a frenzy. No one there had ever seen someone command such creatures, not cats or dogs, but ferocious giants subdued within seconds, bowing to the clown girl's charm. Endless cheers and clamor filled the air, deafeningly loud. Lucian frowned slightly, lost in thought. Merely controlling beasts wasn't the real concern. What if Eliza could manipulate humans too? After a moment, Eliza bent down, ending her performance amid thunderous applause, and silently exited the stage. The host, dressed in an elegant suit, reappeared before the crowd. Gripping the microphone tightly, his face alight with excitement, he shouted, "Next up is the star attraction of our circus of laughs. He is also the king of our kingdom of laughter, the heartthrob of the clown world, the man who makes you laugh until you cry Zombozo." As he said the name, the host stretched out the syllables, pouring all his fervor into it. Boom! A massive burst of multicolored streamers erupted from the stage. Amid the swirling confetti, a rotund clown gradually came into view. His eyes were deep as an abyss, his nose a round blue bulb. He wore an ornate magician's hat, like a fusion of magician and clown. His arms were studded with blue beads, embedded tight and faintly exuding an eerie aura, as if hiding some unspeakable and profound secret. "Hello everyone, I'm Clown Zombozo." He bowed politely, then straightened with a wide grin. "Welcome to the Circus of Laughs. If you're looking for fun, you've come to the right place, heh heh." The audience roared, nearly shouting themselves hoarse, eager to witness the headliner's brilliance. The previous acts had already dazzled them. As the star of the show, Zombozo had to be even more spectacular, right? When Ben saw Zombozo's face, a chill crawled up his spine. That deep blue nose, those monster-like eyes, it felt like he might charge over and swallow him whole. It was terrifying. He pretended he needed the restroom, left his seat, and headed outside for some air. Soon, Zombozo began his performance. Bullfighting with cars, vanishing acts, a cutting-in-half routine, he had the crowd roaring with laughter, cheers rolling non-stop. But Lucian was unmoved. To him, these were just dry jokes. Watching Zombozo on stage, he saw nothing but a buffoon putting on airs. His gaze swept left and right, searching for the machine that absorbed joy, the Cyclown. In the original story, Zombozo used the Cyclown to siphon everyone's joy, amplifying his own power and leaving them dazed and empty, filled only with sorrow. Back then, Zombozo had set it on the stage, secretly draining the audience's energy. But after watching for a long time, Lucian still couldn't find the clown machine. If he could destroy it, this Zombozo wouldn't be able to make much trouble. Soon, people around him began acting strangely, laughing foolishly, and drooling. Lucian had wanted to act immediately and subdue Zombozo, but he hadn't found the Cyclown yet, and Eliza was still lurking in the shadows, watching. Moreover, he wanted Ben to defeat Zombozo himself and overcome his fear of clowns. After a split-second calculation, Lucian left his seat and sprinted to the backstage area. Switching to XLR8, he struck downwards. Thud! A faint green light flickered, but compared to the laser-filled stage, it drew no attention. Looking down at his pitch-black claws, XLR8 rasped, "All right." This time, the transformation was correct. In the next instant, he became a blue afterimage, sweeping past the front rows. In a blink, he carried off Gwen and her grandfather, racing far away. Zombozo's bell-like eyes widened for a moment. He felt a gust of wind rush by and then vanish. He chuckled, paid it little mind, and turned back to the packed audience, continuing his absurd yet deadly performance. Inside the rust bucket, XLR8 had already brought the two back. Thanks to his timely rescue, Gwen and Grandpa Max didn't keep grinning like fools. They were only a bit worn out, and a short rest would set them right. XLR8 tapped the Omnitrix on his chest, reverting to his original form. He stepped out of the car, planning to find Ben first. If you'd like to support my work and unlock advanced chapters, you can follow me on Patreon. Up to 50 chapters ahead for now. Patreon.com/pinksnake. Chapter 81, Chapter 81, Night of the Dark Moon and High Winds. At midnight, under a moonless sky, the wind howled cold and sharp. The desolate street lay empty and silent. A chilling gust swept through, lifting scraps of old newspapers from the ground and scattering them in the air. In the small town, nearly all the residents had gathered at the Circus of Laughs. Only a few who weren't interested had long since drifted into deep, peaceful sleep. Bang! A sudden crash shattered the stillness. A burly man, powerful and brutal, kicked open the iron door of a jewelry shop. He barged inside, greedily sweeping up gold and silver treasures. Had Lucian been there, he would have recognized the man at once, one of the trio, Thumbskull. Not far away, the scrawny, foul-smelling acid breath walked up to a Ferrari. He let out a disgusting breath that instantly melted the car door into a puddle of ooze. He grinned, showing his filthy yellow teeth that looked like they hadn't been brushed in centuries. The stench was so vile it seemed to rot the very air. After ruining the car door, acid breath looted the wallet and a pile of expensive goods inside, leaving nothing but an empty shell behind. Meanwhile, the slender Freytwig stood before an ATM. She smiled slyly, then whipped her red, snake-like hair, driving it into the wall behind the machine. With a sharp pull, she tore the entire ATM out of the wall. Crash! Stacks of green bills spilled out, fluttering down like a rain of money enough to drive anyone mad. "We're rich now." Freytwig laughed loudly. Most of the townsfolk had already lost their joy to Zombozo's powers, left dazed and hollow, too far gone to notice what was happening around them. Taking advantage of that, the trio planned to make a fortune and live easy from now on. As one of the circus freaks, Freytwig was already imagining how she'd blow the cash. Because of her strange hair, people had always called her a monster. They said she was cursed by a demon, and everyone kept their distance. Finding love was impossible, even her family wanted nothing to do with her. So she decided she'd hire a dozen male models to serve her, bringing tea, pouring water, worshipping her until she was satisfied, and then she'd slap them across the face with money. That night, under the dark sky, the circus trio kept robbing the townspeople blind. After looting the jewelry store, Thumbskull turned his sights on a nearby mansion. But just as he climbed over the wall into the yard, a sudden bark startled him so badly he almost fell. Woof! Woof! A little black dog spotted the intruder and bared its teeth, glaring fiercely at Thumbskull. The mansion's owner, however, was already lost in the haze of Zombozo's spell, too deep in false joy to wake. Thumbskull snapped out of his fright, his face twisting into a cruel sneer. "Stupid mutt! You picked the wrong guy to bark at." He cracked his knuckles, ready to deal with it. The moonlight cast his massive shadow over the tiny dog. The poor thing whimpered, stepping backward on its short legs, but the iron chain around its neck held tight. No matter how it struggled, it couldn't break free. Thumbskull gave a cold snort and grabbed the dog by the neck. He squeezed hard, ready to snap its life away. Roar! At that instant, a blinding yellow blur crashed into him, sending him flying. Thumbskull slammed into a large tree, shaking loose a rain of leaves. The creature that landed before him was covered in yellow fur, bristling like steel needles. It had no eyes, only a mouth filled with sharp fangs that jutted outward. A black and white emblem gleamed on its forearm. Wild Mutt. The rescued little black dog trembled before the beast but still wagged its tail slightly, tilting its head as it stared curiously at Wild Mutt. Wild Mutt growled twice, signaling it to move aside, then turned its attention to Thumbskull lying beneath the tree. Chapter 82, Chapter 82, The Ferocious Wild Mutt. "Good dog, sit down." Thumbskull extended his palm like a fan, attempting to calm the ferocious wild mutt. But this casual gesture only enraged the creature further. Did he really think it was a dog? Absolutely outrageous! In a fit of rage, wild mutt roared and launched forward with explosive power. Its sharp claws scraped against the stone tiles beneath its feet, sparking fire as it charged toward its opponent with terrifying ferocity. Despite his imposing size, Thumbskull was utterly petrified by the monstrous creature before him, frozen in place. Roar! Wild Mutt swung a mighty paw, unleashing a blow packed with tremendous kinetic force that struck Thumbskull squarely in the chest. Thud! The burly villain took the full impact, sent hurtling backward like a kite with its string cut. He crashed into the courtyard wall with a thunderous crack, spiderweb fractures spreading rapidly across the stone. Woof woof! Seeing Thumbskull's humiliating defeat, the little black dog's eyes sparkled like stars. It wagged its tail at Wild Mutt with a fawning expression, clearly aware that the big creature had just saved its life. Wild Mutt turned its head and gave a deep, low growl, signaling the little dog to stay back. The small dog whimpered softly, crouching down with its head drooping, yet its eyes remained fixed on Wild Mutt's imposing figure. Tumbling down from the wall, Thumbskull hit the ground hard, his face covered in dirt. Groaning, he clutched his chest and gritted his teeth as he staggered to his feet. Blood trickled from the corner of his mouth. That one fierce strike from Wild Mutt had nearly knocked the air out of him. It had been a long time since he'd been hurt this badly. Even being hit by a pickup truck wouldn't normally leave a mark. Who could have guessed this big dog was this powerful? As the thought crossed his mind, Wild Mutt let out another snarl, ready to strike again. Suddenly, a voice called out from atop the wall. So that's who it is, just a big yellow dog off its leash. Under the bright moonlight, Freytwig stood on the courtyard wall, her crimson braids writhing like serpents. Her resilient red hair was still coiled around Acid Breath, and the two of them glared down coldly at Wild Mutt below. Thumbskull's face brightened. "You're finally here. Come help me deal with this damn dog." With Freytwig and Acid Breath present, the trio was now complete. There was no way they couldn't handle one beast. "Baldy, you're getting worse with age," Freytwig said as she leapt down from the wall, casting him a disdainful glance. "Can't even handle a little dog? How do you expect to serve Lord Zombozo?" Thumbskull's face turned crimson with embarrassment. He wished he could crawl into a hole and disappear. "Enough. Let's finish this quickly," Acid Breath said, removing his custom mask. "The town's full of treasure waiting to be looted. No point wasting time here." The three exchanged glances and nodded in agreement. Freytwig struck first. Her whip-like red hair lashed through the air, carrying a sonic boom as it snapped straight toward Wild Mutt. Sensing the deadly threat, Wild Mutt's hackles rose, fur standing on end. It kicked off the ground, leaping sideways just in time to dodge the attack. Boom! The crimson braid slammed into the stone tiles, shattering them into pieces. Dust and debris burst into the air, filling the courtyard with smoke. Barely avoiding the strike, Wild Mutt prepared to counterattack. But before it could move, a wave of nauseating stench wafted from its side. Acting on instinct, Wild Mutt leapt upward, landing on a large tree in the courtyard. Its claws clamped tightly around a thick branch, anchoring itself to avoid falling. "Damn it, you dodged that!" Below, the scrawny Acid Breath wiped his mouth, his face twisting with rage. Moments ago, he had unleashed a cloud of corrosive stench, hoping to melt the big yellow dog into a puddle of goo, but to his disbelief, it had dodged. "Leave it to me!" Thumbskull roared, clenching his massive fists and slamming them into the tree trunk. Thud! 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 Each blow left deep craters in the bark. The whole tree trembled violently, shaking loose a shower of green leaves that drifted slowly down onto the lawn. Thumbskull's brute strength was incredible. He was a walking tank among ordinary men. Yet the fact that he could rattle such a sturdy tree barehanded caught Wild Mutt completely off guard. As the trunk was about to snap in two, Wild Mutt made its move, leaping straight down toward Thumbskull. "I've been waiting for you." Frytwig snarled, cracking her red, whip-like hair through the air, trying to ensnare the ferocious hound. Wild Mutt slammed its paw against the tree trunk, propelling itself into a spin midair and narrowly avoiding Frytwig's strike before landing steadily on the ground. It roared furiously and charged at the stunned Frytwig like a thunderbolt. Before she could react, Wild Mutt's claws pinned her chest, pressing her flat to the ground, completely immobilized. "Ah! Let me go, you big dumb dog!" Frytwig shrieked in pain, her chest aching as though crushed beneath a giant hammer, each breath a struggle. Wild Mutt's grip tightened, her eyes bulging under the pressure. She flailed wildly, whipping her red, serpent-like braids at its head. With a growl of pain, Wild Mutt released her and bounded backward, creating distance from the chaotic trio. Thumbskull rushed forward and helped Frytwig to her feet. "Are you okay? Did you get hurt?" "Shut up! None of your business," she snapped, her face flushed with fury. Biting down hard on her teeth, she glared at Wild Mutt, seething with the urge to rip it apart. Rubbing her sore chest, her eyes hardened with venom. "Kill that stupid dog, or I'll make you regret it." Thumbskull and Acid Breath exchanged a quick glance, their faces twisting into vicious grins before charging at Wild Mutt. Watching the two clash with the beast, clearly falling behind, Frytwig hesitated. Then, biting her lip, she pulled out her phone and made a call. "Die, you filthy mutt!" Thumbskull leapt high into the air, arms raised overhead, then slammed them down with tremendous force. Wild Mutt's sensory organs flared, its jaw tendrils twitching, and it instantly detected the attack from above, leaping clear of the impact. Thumbskull's blow missed, smashing only the dirt below. He roared and prepared to lunge again, but Wild Mutt was faster. It tackled him to the ground, sending him sprawling as stars danced in his vision. At that moment, Acid Breath arrived, spewing a wave of acrid fumes so toxic they corroded the very air, surging toward Wild Mutt. Wild Mutt's fur bristled in fury. Its sense of smell was razor sharp. It couldn't stand the stench of acid breath, let alone the reek of acid filling the air. The suffocating odor made its senses burn, driving it into a rage. Dodging several bursts of foul vapor, Wild Mutt darted in close. Under Acid Breath's horrified gaze, it slammed its paw into him, sending him flying across the courtyard. He crashed into a stone table and lay motionless. Woof woof! From afar, the little black dog wagged its tail excitedly, tongue lolling as it watched Wild Mutt's display. Its dark, glimmering eyes sparkled with admiration, as if dreaming of one day becoming as strong as the mighty dog before it. Wild Mutt stepped forward, its muscular limbs carrying it slowly toward Frytwig. "I'd advise you not to try anything stupid, big dumb dog," Frytwig stammered, retreating step by step while clutching her chest. Wild Mutt grinned, bearing a disturbingly human-like smile as it advanced. Remembering what had just happened, pain shot through her chest again. Terrified, Frytwig screamed, "All right, I surrender. Big dog, please don't hurt me. I won't hit you again, I promise, wah!" Roar! Wild Mutt raised its heavy paw, ready to strike. Boom! Suddenly, fireworks burst behind it, exploding in a shower of sound and light. Wild Mutt spun around, its thermal sensors flaring. Its massive frame shuddered, stumbling backward. Colorful ribbons drifted down from the sky as a bulky figure stepped out from the haze. The newcomer's face was pale, his eyes dark and bottomless, a sinister grin curling across his lips to reveal jagged yellow teeth. Both arms were lined with translucent blue orbs, something writhing within them, releasing eerie, haunting wails. Zombozo swept his gaze across the scene, then locked onto the trembling Wild Mutt. So that's what it was, just a cowardly, stupid dog. He gave a chilling laugh, striding forward with long steps, then drew back his fist and struck down hard. If you'd like to support my work and unlock advanced chapters, you can follow me on Patreon. Up to 50 chapters ahead for now. patreon.com/pinksnake. Chapter 83, all of you, come at once. Boom. Zombozo's powerful punch, filled with terrifying energy, sent the massive wild mutt flying through the air. It crashed down onto the puppy's wooden hut, smashing it to pieces beneath its weight. The little black dog whimpered softly, scurrying over on its short legs to the fallen wild mutt, gently licking its fur. Seeing this, Zombozo smirked smugly and spread his hands. That little mutt managed to beat all three of you like this. Freytwig looked stunned, unable to respond. That big yellow dog had been so ferocious before. How did it suddenly turn into a harmless puppy the moment the boss showed up? Zombozo slid one hand into his pocket, patted Thumbskull's shoulder, and said coldly, "Go on. Kill it." "Boss. I can't." Thumbskull lowered his head, shaking it repeatedly. "Useless fool." Zombozo snarled, stepping toward the wrecked kennel. "I've already absorbed half the audience's happiness and was wondering how to use it. Perfect, I'll use it to slaughter this big dumb dog." He had been on stage, performing and stealing joy from the crowd, when Freytwig suddenly called to say the three of them were in trouble and needed help. Woof woof. As the clown approached, the little black dog bared its teeth and barked fiercely, fur bristling as it tried to appear threatening. To it, even Thumbskull seemed scarier than this creepy clown. Wild Mutt struggled to its feet. Its sharp thermal vision clearly picked up every expression on the clown's face. All its confidence drained away. Its body trembled as it instinctively backed up, step by step. Watching it retreat, Zombozo grinned with amusement. "Big dumb dog, let me send you to the afterlife." "I don't think so. You won't get the chance." A lazy voice suddenly echoed from nearby, carrying a tone of casual disdain. Everyone froze and turned toward the source. A tall, lean figure stood atop the courtyard wall. Bathed in moonlight, his handsome face and slightly messy black hair were revealed. His entire presence radiated a cold, quiet intensity as he gazed indifferently at the scene below. It was Lucian. Sensing his arrival, Wild Mutt let out an excited roar, as if recognizing its savior. Then, the Omnitrix on its arm began to flash. Wild Mutt quickly ran to the back of the house and reverted to its original form. "I hate being interrupted," Zombozo said irritably, pointing at Lucian. "Get him. Beat him senseless. I'll make him my personal entertainment slave." The trio nodded and charged forward. They couldn't handle the big yellow beast, but surely they could take down an ordinary human. Ding! Alien hacker mission triggered. Defeat the circus trio. Successfully completing this grants a random enhancement effect. A string of mechanical notifications echoed through Lucian's mind. Lucian's lips curved slightly. He pressed the Omnitrix, switching to the forearm's holographic projection, and slammed his hand down. Thud! A burst of brilliant green light erupted, so bright it forced the charging trio to halt. When their vision cleared, their eyes widened in disbelief. The handsome young man had vanished, replaced by a towering, four-armed, four-eyed giant. His blood-red skin was covered in rippling muscles that radiated explosive power, like a primordial beast awakening from ancient times. Zombozo narrowed his eyes. "Interesting. Looks like today's a good day. All kinds of freaks are coming out to play." He turned to deal with the big yellow dog first, but froze. It was gone. Only the wreckage of the wooden kennel remained, and the puppy still tied to the wooden post. Aside from the empty collar, there was nothing else. Zombozo looked around but saw no trace of them, as if they had vanished into thin air. Eventually, he gave up searching and focused on the battle ahead. Meanwhile, Ben held the frightened black puppy tightly, hiding behind a tall building. The pup licked Ben's arm with its tongue, its dark, glossy eyes full of curiosity. It could still smell the big dog's scent on him and wondered how it had changed. Feeling the ticklish sensation on his arm, Ben sighed softly, covering the little dog's snout with his hand. Then, he cautiously peeked out to watch the fight unfold. In the courtyard, Four Arms opened his glowing yellow eyes, flexing his fists until his knuckles cracked. He stepped forward, his towering frame casting a shadow over the three villains. "You three, come at me together." Chapter 84, Chapter 84, Solo Battle Against the Circus Freaks. Thumbskull glanced around, grabbed a nearby sedan, and swung it wildly before hurling it with all his strength. The car tore through the air with a deafening howl, crashing toward Four Arms. Too weak. Four Arms stretched out a blood-red arm and tore the car clean in half. He gripped one of the halves tightly in his palm, wielding it like a weapon. With a powerful kick, he launched himself 5 or 6 meters into the air. His immense strength propelled him upward, and he swung the car fragment down with crushing force toward Thumbskull. Thumbskull raised his arms to shield his head, bracing for impact. Boom! The blow landed with the sound of thunder. Four Arms' overwhelming power slammed Thumbskull deep into the lawn. The car fragment shattered into countless metal pieces, spraying debris and dirt in every direction. The once arrogant Thumbskull now lay buried in the ground, only his head sticking out, his face covered in mud, eyes spinning in dizziness. "Cool!" Ben blurted out, excitement surging through him. That was his cuz for sure, taking down that thick-skinned brute the instant he showed up. Luckily, the chaos in the courtyard, the roars, crashes, and explosions drowned out Ben's voice. Zombozo didn't notice him at all. "Impressive," Zombozo said calmly, his beer belly jutting out as he clasped his hands behind his back. He didn't seem the least bit worried. Once he finished draining the happiness from the entire town, no one would be able to oppose him, not even this four-armed creature. Watching Four Arms grow fiercer by the second, Zombozo's lips curled into a sinister grin. Maybe he wouldn't even need to get involved. Behind the house, Ben looked down at his watch glowing red and sighed. Going out now would only drag his cuz down. Better to stay hidden and wait for the Omnitrix to recharge. After subduing Thumbskull, Four Arms sidestepped, dodging a burst of acid breath's corrosive fumes. "Damn, you stink! Ever heard of mouthwash?" he snapped, waving a hand to clear the foul air. "This is just how I am. What are you gonna do about it?" Acid Breath sneered, flashing a malicious grin. He took pride in his stench. Why else would he have gone decades without brushing his teeth? "Enough talk. Let's finish this fast." Freytwig rushed in, her crimson hair lashing out wildly as she engaged Four Arms. Her tough, whip-like strands cracked against his muscular arms, each strike ringing sharply through the air. "How's that, big guy? Doesn't feel so good, huh?" she taunted, stepping back with a smirk of disdain. Her hair could smash stone. No way this four-armed brute would walk away unscathed after taking that many hits. Four Arms shrugged. "Sorry, didn't feel a thing." "What?" Freytwig's eyes widened in disbelief. Four Arms grunted and reached out a massive hand to grab her. Facing the unstoppable giant, Freytwig immediately retreated, her scarlet tendrils shooting out like venomous snakes and piercing into the stone tiles beneath her. She flipped backward, yanking several slabs of stone into the air, then flung them in rapid succession like a storm of projectiles, raining down on Four Arms. Four Arms roared, raising his arms to shield himself. The heavy tiles shattered against him one after another, exploding into dust and debris. Without slowing, he burst forward through the cloud of smoke and fragments, closing in on Freytwig in an instant. Her expression twisted in panic. She unleashed another barrage of red hair, trying to hold him off. Four Arms ignored the assault, seized her hair in one massive fist, planted his feet firmly, and with a powerful twist of his waist, hurled her through the air. Acid Breath, who had just opened his mouth to spew another blast of fumes, was crushed beneath the falling Freytwig. He let out a strangled groan before losing consciousness. The two of them lay in a heap, motionless out of the fight for now. Not far away, Thumbskull remained stuck in the ground, completely immobilized like a tree with roots buried deep in the earth, only the top of his head still visible. With that, the circus trio had been crushed single-handedly by 4 arms. Successfully defeated the trio. 4 arms' strength increased by 10%. A series of notifications echoed in Lucian's mind. Awesome! My cuz Lucian is seriously amazing. Ben clenched his fists, his heart pounding with excitement. Boss, save me! Thumbskull's hoarse scream broke the air, his rough face twisted in terror and panic. He had never seen anything so terrifying, someone who could tear through cars and stone slabs as if they were paper. It was like facing an unstoppable monster. A cold glint flashed through Zombozo's deep, sunken eyes as he walked forward at an unhurried pace. What a bunch of useless idiots! Seems I always have to clean up after you. If only Eliza were here. As he muttered, Zombozo drew one fat hand from his pocket and raised both arms high. His thick, pale skin was lined with glowing blue beads that pulsed with faint, eerie light. 4 arms narrowed his eyes. That glow, he could sense it. It was the happiness of the townspeople, drained by Zombozo and turned into his own power. I must admit, Mr. 4 Arms, you're quite something, Zombozo chuckled. Then his grin darkened. But you hurt my subordinates. That's the same as slapping a clown in the face. I can't just let that slide, he sneered. Behind the house, Ben tensed up. The clown looked terrifying. Could his cuz really handle him? The little black dog in his arms whimpered softly and nuzzled Ben's chest, its dark, glossy eyes glinting as if trying to calm him down. Oh, great, even a dog can see right through me, Ben muttered, lowering his eyes before glancing back toward the courtyard. After the brutal battle, what was once a quiet, beautiful yard had been reduced to ruins. Cracked walls, shattered tiles, half-uprooted trees, torn up grass and the splintered remains of the doghouse littered the ground. Facing the eerie clown, 4 Arms planted his feet and launched forward like a cannonball, his massive frame tearing through the air as he charged at Zombozo. Kid, you should be the one afraid of me. With a burst of colorful fireworks, Zombozo vanished from sight only to reappear an instant later behind 4 Arms. His fist tightened, swirling with a strange blue energy, and he swung it like a bolt of lightning at the giant's broad back. Chapter 85, Defeat and Retreat. Sensing the gust of power surging from behind, 4 Arms twisted his massive body, unleashing a burst of terrifying energy that collided with Zombozo's fist in a thunderous crash. Boom! The deafening explosion echoed across the courtyard. At the center of the impact, a violent shockwave erupted outward. The howling wind tore through the air, whipping up gravel, leaves, and debris, sending them spiraling high into the night sky. Within the raging storm, Zombozo's arm began to tremble uncontrollably, surprise flashing across his face. I didn't expect you to be this strong, you bastard. His feet skidded backward, gouging a dark trench through the grass. And that's not all. 4 Arms roared, his immense power surging through his clenched fists. With a single, crushing strike, he sent the clown flying, smashing him through a thick tree before Zombozo tumbled helplessly across the ground. Seeing the clown sprawled on the grass, 4 Arms seized the momentum and charged forward. That brief clash had told him plenty. Zombozo's strength was far greater than expected. He must have absorbed the audience's joy, transforming it into raw power. Otherwise, he'd have been flattened by their first collision. Thud, thud, thud. The earth cracked beneath 4 Arms' pounding strides as he charged like a runaway train, bearing down on Zombozo with unstoppable force. Feeling the tremors beneath his feet, Zombozo gritted his teeth against the pain, pushed himself upright, and pulled a small, purple gift box from his pocket. Its surface gleamed beautifully under the light. For you, he shouted, hurling it straight at the oncoming 4 Arms. 4 Arms tensed, instantly sidestepping the throw. Then, with a powerful swing, he struck the box away with his palm, sending it spinning skyward with a shrill whistle. Boom! The box exploded midair, bursting into a blinding flash that lit up the entire courtyard like daylight. A scorching wave of heat swept down, mingled with a pungent chemical odor, blanketing everything within 50 meters. Four Arms narrowed his eyes against the glare, scanning the fiery haze for Zombozo's silhouette. "Farewell, dear Mr. Four Arms," Zombozo's mocking laughter echoed through the smoke. The battered trio stood behind him as he continued, "Once I've absorbed every ounce of joy from the crowd, we'll finish this properly." Four Arms lunged forward, reaching for him. Byakuya! A massive burst of fireworks exploded in his face, and in an instant Zombozo and his lackeys vanished without a trace, gone as if they'd never been there at all. Moments later, the bright flare in the sky faded, and silence returned to the shattered courtyard. The Joker and his crew were gone, leaving behind only the wreckage of battle. After confirming they wouldn't return, Four Arms tapped the Omnitrix on his chest, reverting to his human form. "That guy, clown or magician?" Lucian muttered, rubbing his forehead. "I've never seen anyone slip away like that." "Cuz." Ben came running up from behind. Lucian gave him a calm glance and smiled faintly. "You finally decided to come out, hey, kid?" I didn't want to drag you down," Ben mumbled, his head hanging low. "You're scared of that clown," Lucian said flatly. "I'm not." Ben protested, but under Lucian's steady gaze, he slumped and admitted, "Okay, fine. I was scared. Really scared. I don't even know why, but clowns just freak me out." Lucian shook his head. "I'm not going to feed you some motivational nonsense. It won't help. So, tonight, you're going to defeat that clown yourself. Understand?" "What?" Ben gasped, shaking his head furiously. "Cuz, come on, no way. I can't beat him, he's way too strong." "You've already decided you can't win before even trying?" Lucian asked calmly. "He escaped even from your Four Arms." "I don't stand a chance," Ben admitted, his voice trembling. "Escaped?" Lucian's lips curved slightly. "That just means he was afraid. As long as you're stronger, more determined, more ruthless than he is, he'll be the one afraid of you. Just like right now." Ben froze for a moment, then slowly lifted his head. Determination began to flicker in his eyes. After returning to the rust bucket, Lucian found Gwen and Grandpa Max already fast asleep. Moving quietly, he took Ben and headed straight for the Circus of Laughs. Midnight. The empty streets were strewn with plastic litter bottles, popcorn buckets, and scraps of garbage. A cold gust of wind swept through, lifting a crumpled circus poster off the ground. It drifted lazily through the air before settling on the fountain's surface, slowly sinking into the dark water below. All around, dazed townsfolk wandered aimlessly, their eyes vacant and lifeless, as though their souls had been drained away. The once vibrant atmosphere was now dead silent, sending a chill through the night. Passing through the dim, abandoned stage, Lucian led Ben toward the circus camp. As soon as they arrived, they spotted the circus trio. Bandaged from head to toe, they were gritting their teeth as they hauled crates and sacks of loot. These were stolen goods from the town, and they were preparing to flee before sunrise, abandoning this place for good. As for the townspeople, the Circus of Laughs didn't care in the slightest. They'd just leave them behind to rot. Hidden behind a pile of debris, Lucian whispered, "Ben, don't transform yet." "Why not?" "I wanna help you beat up those weirdos," Ben said, frowning. "You'll understand soon enough." Lucian gave a faint, knowing smile. He already had a plan in mind. Thud. A flash of eerie green light burst out, startling the three nearby. Well, what little mouse dares to peek at the show?" Frightwig sneered, her fiery red hair lashing out like whips. In an instant, the junk pile was shredded into splinters, sending a cloud of dust billowing through the air. From within the haze, a towering figure slowly emerged. Its body was made entirely of crystal, gleaming under the moonlight with a pale green sheen. Jagged spikes jutted from its chest and back, and a circular green Omnitrix emblem glowed at the center of its torso. The trio froze, their eyes widening in shock. First came that four-armed monster that ruined their plans, and now a stone giant. And an even stronger one at that. Were they cursed tonight? Who are you looking for? Thumbskull asked awkwardly, scratching his bald head with a sheepish grin. Zombozo. Tell him to come out, Diamond Head said, his tone cold and steady. Realizing the intruder wasn't friendly, Acid Breath reacted instantly. He spat out a cloud of yellow, reeking gas that surged toward Diamond Head. Diamond Head lifted his hand, forming a shimmering crystal barrier that easily absorbed the poisonous fumes. Then his forearm shifted, transforming into a row of sharp, gleaming spikes. In the next second, he unleashed them in a blinding barrage like a hailstorm of crystal shards, pelting toward Acid Breath with unstoppable force. Chapter 86, Chapter 86, The Return of Harley Quinn. Acid Breath's face went pale. In a panic, he stretched out his bony hand, grabbing a shining steel plate nearby and raising it just in time to shield himself. Bang! 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 Dozens of emerald crystal spikes slammed into the steel with explosive force, sending Acid Breath flying. He crashed to the ground, pinned beneath the heavy metal sheet and unable to move. Even with the steel plate as protection, the shards had still pierced him. His torso was riddled with small holes, thin streams of blood seeping through the gaps. Damn rock freak, I'm done holding back. Thumbskull snarled, limping forward. His bandage-wrapped fist swung with all his strength, aiming straight at Diamond Head. Diamond Head met the attack head-on, driving his crystalline fist deep into Thumbskull's abdomen. A violent surge of nausea hit him like a wave. Thumbskull gagged, spitting up foul liquid as his face twisted in pain. Without mercy, Diamond Head unleashed another burst of strength, blasting him backward. Thumbskull hit the ground hard, rolling to a stop beside the motionless Acid Breath. In the same motion, Diamond Head conjured a crystal spear in his hand, its razor-sharp tip glinting menacingly. He was ready to end it, to pierce both of them in one blow. Ding host, please release your killing intent. Do not execute the unfortunate circus freaks. Mission successfully completed. Random reward granted. A series of mechanical chimes echoed in his mind. Again. Diamond Head muttered, his eyes narrowing. After a moment, he lowered his arm, the deadly spear dissolving back into crystal dust. So the system didn't allow him to kill, probably because of the world's original logic. Too much bloodshed would break the rules. Congratulations, host. Mission complete. Transformation time extended by 3 minutes. Previous duration, 12 minutes. Current duration, 15 minutes. A faint smile crossed Diamond Head's face. His transformation time had finally increased. But, what if he didn't listen? Acting on impulse, he lifted his arm again. It shifted into a mass of gleaming crystal spikes, all aimed squarely at Thumbskull and Acid Breath. Before he could act, the system's voice rang out once more. Host, do not kill the targets. Failure to comply will result in forfeiting the reward, and no similar missions will be issued in the future. Diamond Head froze mid-motion, then slowly lowered his arm. Killing them wasn't worth it. Losing the reward was one thing, but forfeiting future missions like this? The loss far outweighed the gain. Besides, small-time thugs like these weren't worth dirtying his hands over. Regaining his composure, Diamond Head turned and began walking toward Frightwig. Who are you? She hissed through clenched teeth, fear twisting her expression. Diamond Head raised his hand, forming a razor-edged crystal sword midair, ready to strike. When suddenly, a graceful figure stepped out from a side door, positioning herself between him and his target. Clown Queen Eliza. Tall, striking, her curves accentuated by her tight outfit. Heavy makeup framed her pale face, and her twin ponytails, one white, one blue, flowed like ribbons. Every movement she made radiated charm and danger in equal measure. "Step aside. I'll handle him," Eliza said lazily, a lollipop stick resting between her lips as she glanced toward Freytwig. "Yes," Freytwig replied at once, retreating to check on her injured teammates. By a wooden crate nearby, Ben caught sight of the newcomer and immediately reached for the Omnitrix, ready to jump into the fight. But Diamond Head shook his head, motioning for him to stay put. Ben hesitated for a second, then nodded. He trusted his cuz Lucian wouldn't put him in danger. Now, facing the towering, battle-hardened Diamond Head, Eliza didn't flinch. Instead, her gaze smoldered, her beautiful, electric blue eyes locking onto his crystalline form, sparks of mischief dancing within them. "Diamond, can't we talk this out? No need to get violent." Eliza's tone dripped with teasing sweetness, every word languid and sultry. "Tell me where Zombozo and the Cyclown are. Otherwise." Diamond Head extended his arm, and a crystalline long sword materialized in his grip, its tip gleaming coldly as it leveled at her. "Oh, how boring." Eliza pouted, pulling the lollipop from her lips. "If Diamond insists on being rough, then I suppose I'll just have to play along." She raised one slender, pale finger and snapped crisply. "Roar!" From the back of the warehouse, a massive white shadow burst out, its presence savage and suffocating, its killing intent thick in the air. In the blink of an eye, it lunged straight for Diamond Head. Without hesitation, Diamond Head struck out with his palm. The impact sent the creature flying, crashing into the muddy ground with a dull thud. A white tiger. His gaze sharpened. Its snow-white fur was patterned with black stripes, a symbol marked on its forehead, and its eyes glowed with a strange pink hue. The white tiger roared furiously, shaking off the dirt. Its muscles tensed like coiled steel springs before it charged forward again with even greater ferocity. "Careful, Diamond, don't let it bite you to death," Eliza teased, stepping back with a smirk. "Ever heard of a rock getting bitten to death?" Diamond Head snorted coldly and swung a heavy fist straight into the tiger's snarling face. But just then, pink light flared from the tiger's body, swirling around it and hardening into a barrier that resisted the blow head-on. Roar! The beast slammed both claws down, pinning Diamond Head to the ground. Its jaws opened wide, fangs flashing as it tried to bite down. Diamond Head didn't panic. He caught its jaws in both hands, sparks skittering off his crystal palms. Then, with a powerful kick, he launched the tiger into the air. Boom! The massive creature flew backward like a kite with its string cut, smashing through a nearby tent. Turning back, Diamond Head met Eliza's gaze only to see her eyes glowing with the same eerie pink light, almost spilling out of her pupils. So the glow on the white tiger's body had come from her. This strange ability of hers not only controlled her targets but also amplified their power. If the tiger had been in its normal state, it would never have survived a single punch from him. "Such strength, Diamond, I like that." Eliza's voice was soft and playful, her eyes shimmering. "But, there's someone even stronger than you." Moo! From a nearby iron cage, a massive elephant suddenly opened its eyes. Its gaze burned with pink light as it reared to its feet and let out a thunderous bellow. With one violent swing of its tusks, the iron bars crumpled and split apart like paper. Thud! 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 Each step it took made the ground quake, cracks spreading through the earth beneath its weight. Eliza grinned, controlling the beast as it charged forward like a runaway tank straight at Diamond Head. And she didn't stop there. Running from cage to cage, she flung every door open, releasing the entire menagerie of circus beasts. Snarling baboons bearing sharp teeth, roaring lions, enraged rhinos, snapping crocodiles. In the darkness, pairs of glowing pink eyes began to appear one after another, each filled with madness and bloodlust as the horde of beasts surged toward Diamond Head. Chapter 87, The Power of Enchantment. Behind the old wooden crate, Ben clenched his fists so tightly that his knuckles turned white, torn between fear and determination. He wanted nothing more than to rush out and help his cuz take down those monstrous beasts, but the words Lucian had spoken echoed in his mind, stopping him short. Deep down, he knew what his cuz was doing, pushing him to face his fear of the Joker, to stop being the coward he'd been. Taking a deep breath, Ben lowered his gaze to the eerie green glow of the Omnitrix and made a firm decision. He was going to defeat the Joker himself. Scanning the area, he noticed a faint blue light flickering from a nearby cave. It pulsed softly in the darkness, strange and unnerving, like something alive. Glancing back toward the battlefield, he saw Diamond Head steadily gaining the upper hand, holding off the raging beasts with overwhelming power. Relieved, Ben slipped quietly into the dark cave, vanishing as if swallowed whole by some unseen creature. At the circus camp, a maze of tents sprawled across the grounds. Broken cages stood open beneath the cold silver moonlight, their iron bars twisted and bent. A fierce, earth-shaking battle was unfolding under the icy night sky. Wind howled. Dust billowed. The cracked ground split apart, spreading black fissures in every direction like webs spun by a monstrous spider. Eliza sat astride a massive rhinoceros, smiling as she watched Diamond Head surrounded and besieged. Her lips were crimson, her skin pale, her beauty dazzling even amidst the chaos. The circus trio, however, was nowhere to be seen. They had disappeared completely. At the center of the battlefield lay deep craters from pounding hooves, savage claw marks gouged into the earth, and countless crystal spikes jutting upward. Faced with the horde of frenzied beasts, Diamond Head finally stopped holding back. He unleashed his full power, cutting through them without mercy. The monsters came from every direction, their eyes glowing pink, their snarls echoing like thunder. Under Eliza's enchantment, their bodies shimmered with a faint rosy light that vastly enhanced their strength and defense, making them deadlier than ever. Within mere moments of combat, Lucian realized how dangerous they were. These enhanced creatures fought on par with the biomutants created by Dr. Onimo. The rampaging elephant before him was easily as strong as the mammoth from the prehistoric museum. Moo! The maddened elephant bellowed, swinging its enormous trunk with terrifying speed and power. The air cracked as it came crashing down toward Diamond Head. Diamond Head raised both arms, summoning a shimmering crystal shield above him that expanded to envelop his entire body. Boom! The trunk struck like a giant iron whip, slamming into the barrier and leaving it covered in a web of fine cracks. But Diamond Head's crystalline form had been strengthened, its durability increased by 25%. Even under Eliza's spell, the elephant's raw power wasn't enough to break through his defense. Crack! With a sharp sound, Diamond Head burst out from behind the shield. His crystalline form moved like lightning, dodging the attacks of the other beasts as he lunged straight at the elephant. The colossal beast showed no fear. It raised its massive foot high, blotting out the moonlight, and stomped down in an attempt to crush him. Diamond Head's eyes hardened. He slammed his fist into the ground. Boom! A colossal crystal mountain erupted upward from beneath the elephant, glowing emerald green under the moonlight. Sand and dirt exploded skyward, raining down gently over the glittering crystalline slope. At the mountain's sharp peak, the elephant thrashed violently, its pink eyes blazing with fury and bloodlust. It kicked and writhed, desperate to break free, but the razor peak had already impaled its abdomen. No matter how it struggled, there was no escape. Diamond Head raised his hand and summoned a gleaming halberd of pure crystal. With a powerful swing, he hurled it upward at the massive elephant. Crack! The halberd tore through the air with immense force, shattering the glowing aura around the beast before piercing straight through its body, striking deep into its chest. Atop the crystal mountain, the elephant thrashed twice before its glowing eyes dimmed, a trace of clarity flickering within them. But its life force was fading fast. It wouldn't last much longer. Even after bringing down the elephant, Diamond Head didn't relax. More beasts were charging in from every direction. The situation was dire. He had no choice but to fight ruthlessly. If he let himself get bogged down too long, once his transformation time ran out, the consequences would be catastrophic. He still had one last trump card, but he wasn't ready to use it yet. Roar! A powerful lion, its neck covered in thick, bristling mane, launched itself like a cannonball. Its massive claws gleamed as it lunged at Diamond Head. From the opposite side, the white tiger burst from a ruined tent, its fur matted with dirt and dust, muscles tensing as it bounded forward. With a tremendous leap, it slashed down at him with dagger-like claws. One from the left, one from the right, an attack meant to crush him completely. In a flash, Diamond Head lifted his arm, forming a crystalline staff that extended across his body. With a surge of will, the staff expanded at blinding speed. Its hardened tips struck outward, slamming into both beasts and sending them crashing to the ground. What a big stick! Eliza blinked in surprise, her eyes wide. The game's over. Diamond Head's low growl rumbled as he charged straight into the horde. From the heart of the beast pack, countless sharp crystal spikes exploded outward in all directions, glittering with cold, deadly light. They sliced through the air like a storm of blades, cutting down everything around them. Under the devastating assault, the frenzied beasts were skewered in an instant, their bodies riddled with crystal spikes until they looked like grotesque hedgehogs. They howled in pain, and in their final moments, their eyes cleared then dimmed forever. Your turn. With a single bound, Diamond Head appeared before Eliza. She sat gracefully atop her rhinoceros, her eyes glowing with an eerie pink light that reflected in his golden gaze. Diamond Head froze, his body locking in place. His pupils began to glow pink, confusion and resistance flickering across his face. Dear Diamond, I'm your little darling. Eliza leapt lightly from the rhino's back, walking toward him with slow, deliberate steps. The air around her carried a sweet, intoxicating scent. Her pale fingers brushed against his face, tracing slowly downward as her voice slipped out soft, lazy, dangerously sweet. So, you belong to me. From now on, you'll obey my every command. You'll do whatever I tell you. No questions. No resistance. Her voice whispered through his ears like a siren's song from the depths of hell, irresistible, consuming, seductive. Diamond Head's eyes glowed brighter with pink light. A primal heat rose within him, his self-control slipping away under the pull of Eliza's power. He clutched his head, gritting his teeth. He knew that if this continued, he would fall completely under her control, reduced to nothing more than her puppet. Watching his struggle, Eliza laughed softly, her tone dripping with satisfaction. As long as the target's male, whether animal, human, or alien freak, none can resist my charm. Don't worry, Diamond. I'll take good care of you. Diamond Head's eyes narrowed. Target, male. Ha ha ha, that's right. Eliza giggled, twirling one of her blue and white ponytails. I can only control the opposite sex. It's just how my ability works. I see. Diamond Head's lips curved upward slightly. But so what? It's not like you can change your gender now, can you? Eliza teased, her hand resting on his crystal chest, her expression smug and playful. That's not necessarily true. Before his last trace of reason was lost, Diamond Head clenched his crystalline fist. 3 alien silhouettes flashed through his mind as he muttered in a low, focused voice. Big chill. Chapter 88, Chapter 88, Big chill. Boom. A surge of eerie green light burst from Diamond Head's body, dazzlingly bright and flooding the entire area with its glow. What's happening now? Eliza cried out, shielding her eyes. When the light finally faded, she slowly lowered her hand and froze in disbelief. What? This is impossible. Her beautiful eyes widened, her lips parting in shock. Who are you? Where did my dear Diamond go? The towering Diamond Head had vanished completely, as if he'd been erased from existence. In his place stood a tall, slender figure cloaked in blue. His frame was sleek and ethereal, his eyes glowing with deep luminescent green specks that shimmered like starlight. His entire body carried a faint, icy glow like a being born from frozen skies. A wave of chill radiated from him, mingling with an aura both noble and otherworldly. The new alien hero Big Chill. Before Eliza could react, Big Chill exhaled sharply. A blast of freezing breath shot forward at incredible speed. Whoosh! The air itself froze solid in its path, the biting cold surging forth like a howling blizzard, tearing straight toward her. Startled, Eliza scrambled back and vaulted onto the rhino's back. "Go!" she shouted, panic flickering across her face as she slapped its flank. "Moo!" The rhino bellowed in pain, its eyes flaring with pink light. It kicked off the ground with immense force, smashing through the floor and barreling away like a runaway tank. "None of you are getting away!" Big Chill spread his enormous wings, his blue form glowing as frost swirled around him. With one powerful beat, he soared into the air, a streak of icy mist trailing behind him as he closed in on the fleeing rhino. Clinging to the rhino's back, Eliza kept glancing over her shoulder. Her face was pale, eyes wide with fear, silently wishing the beast could somehow grow 2 more legs to run faster. Just moments ago, victory had been hers. Now she was reduced to running for her life. Panic consumed her so completely that she'd forgotten she could even use her powers. Crackling frost rained down from above, coating the ground in a trail of solid ice as the freezing mist closed in fast. It was almost upon her. "What the hell is this thing?" Eliza shouted, voice trembling. She could feel the bitter cold crawling up her spine, stealing the warmth from her skin. The attack was seconds away from hitting her. In desperation, Eliza gritted her teeth and rolled off the rhino's back, tumbling into the weeds. She hit the ground hard, scrambling up with dirt on her face and panic in her eyes. Almost instantly, the rhino was caught in the icy blast. Its movements slowed, frost crawling across its body until it froze completely, transformed into a flawless sculpture of solid ice. Ignoring her bruises, Eliza staggered to her feet and ran as fast as she could. Her blue and white twin ponytails bounced wildly behind her, leaving a faint trail of sweet perfume in the cold air. But Big Chill was far faster. Whoosh! A gust of freezing wind swept down as Big Chill descended in front of her, folding his massive wings around himself like a royal blue cloak. He moved forward slowly, each step deliberate, his translucent body flickering in and out of visibility like a ghost caught between worlds. Eliza's heart pounded. Her face drained of color as she bit her lip, trembling. "Please, don't kill me. I'll tell you everything. I'll even tell you where Zombozo is." "Then talk," Big Chill said coldly, his tone calm but commanding, unconcerned by her pleading. "Come closer," Eliza whispered, swaying her slender figure as she approached. Now only inches separated them, so close she could feel the icy breath brushing against her cheek. "Zombozo, he's hiding in a cave," she murmured, standing on tiptoe to whisper in Big Chill's ear. Her warm breath carried a faint sweetness against the cold air. Big Chill remained expressionless, unconvinced by her sudden cooperation. "That's the truth, but be careful, Zombozo is very dangerous." Her voice suddenly cut off. In an instant, Eliza's hands shot up, gripping Big Chill's face tightly. Her eyes flared with an intense pink glow. As her psychic energy surged, her expression twisted into a dangerously alluring smile. The curve of her red lips was mesmerizing, her beauty like a blooming rose covered in thorns, deadly, and impossible to resist. "Dear blue ghost, have you forgotten me already? I'm your little baby, how could you possibly hurt me?" A pink vortex swirled in Eliza's eyes, glowing like molten fire. The energy burned with fierce brilliance as she pushed her psychic power to its very limit. Facing such a powerful opponent, she dared not make a mistake. One slip, and she'd be lost in her own illusion forever. In that moment, a faint pink shimmer flickered in Big Chill's eyes. Seeing it, Eliza let out a soft, delighted laugh. She lowered her delicate hand and released him. From now on, you belong to me. Understand, she whispered, her warm breath brushing against his ear. Her heart pounded with excitement, her eyes gleaming with heat. If she could control this blue ghost, no one in the world could stand against her. She would reign supreme, even Zombozo himself would be reduced to crawling at her feet. I don't understand, Big Chill said calmly. Ha ha ha, that's right, you don't understand. Eliza's words cut off. Her smile froze, her face stiffening. What? You're not under my control. She immediately leapt backward, putting distance between them. Big Chill closed his eyes for a moment, then reopened them. The pink glow had vanished, replaced by his usual cold, steady gaze. Done playing? He asked, his voice laced with an icy edge. This can't be. My charm failed. Eliza's face drained of color, her expression twisting with disbelief and disgust, as if she'd just swallowed a fly. I was able to control that diamond man earlier. Why not you? She cried, a mix of panic and fury in her tone. There's nothing impossible about it. Big Chill's form shimmered, his body becoming translucent as he advanced toward her. Every male falls under my spell, Eliza stammered, biting her red lips. Why are you completely unaffected? Because. Big Chill's wings spread wide, unleashing a surge of freezing wind that roared across the space. I'm both male and female. The icy storm engulfed the stunned Eliza in an instant. Chapter 89, Chapter 89, Cyclone. The instant she touched the freezing air, Harley Quinn was encased in ice, her body solidifying into a crystal-clear statue that shimmered under the cold moonlight. Big Chill lifted one claw, ready to crush the ice sculpture to pieces. Ding host, please let go of your killing intent. Be careful not to kill the alluring Harley Quinn. Successfully completing the task will grant a random reward. A series of mechanical prompts echoed in his mind. Lucian, in the form of Big Chill, was already used to such interruptions. He lowered his claw, withdrawing the attack. Then, phasing into his ghostly state, his form flickered and slipped effortlessly through Eliza's frozen body. Crack crackle! The crystalline statue began to melt rapidly, turning into a pool of clear water that revealed the Joker girl within. If he had left her that way, she would have frozen to death. Congratulations, host, on suppressing your killing intent. You have obtained the seamless transformation effect. Description: within your transformation duration, you may switch between two alien heroes once without delay. However, the combined total time of both forms cannot exceed the current available duration. Big Chill blinked, then smiled faintly. So now he could swap alien forms once during a single transformation cycle. Though his current limit was only 15 minutes, both forms combined would share that same timer. Still, since the Omnitrix's duration varied with environmental factors, Lucian wasn't too worried. Freed from the ice, Eliza stood soaked to the bone, her hair clinging to her face and her body dripping with melted frost. She looked up at Big Chill, her wide eyes filled with fear. But she didn't dare run. She knew she wouldn't get far. You. She stammered, her voice trembling, unsure of what to say, afraid that one wrong word could seal her fate. Big Chill exhaled sharply, the air around him frosting over. He grabbed her by the collar and glared straight into her eyes. You said you knew where Zombozo was. Were you lying? His gaze was cold and merciless, utterly serious. Eliza nearly broke down crying. She shook her head desperately, her twin ponytails swinging like rattles. And no. I swear I wasn't lying. I wouldn't dare deceive you, not even if I had 100 lives. Just as Big Chill was about to respond, a brilliant flash of blue light erupted behind him, the explosion rumbling like thunder. He turned, his expression darkening. That's the direction of the circus. Without hesitation, he tossed the clown girl aside and unfurled his wide, sky-blue wings. With a single beat, he shot into the air like a streak of ice, racing toward the source of the light at incredible speed. Left behind, Eliza sat trembling on the ground, her drenched figure motionless, her eyes wide in shock. She looked up at the empty sky, wanting to cry but no tears came. Half an hour earlier, Ben Tennyson stepped cautiously into the cave, guided only by the faint glow of the flames flickering along the walls. Each step felt heavier than the last. His heart pounded in his chest, terrified that at any second, the terrifying clown might jump out of the shadows. He didn't know how long he had been walking when he finally reached the end of the cave. But just as relief began to settle in, unease crept back over him. He had entered a strange chamber. The dark room was lined with tall mirrors on both sides of a narrow, muddy path. From the ceiling above hung a single candle. Its sickly white flame flickered weakly, reflecting endlessly through the mirrors, twisting the space into something eerie and distorted. Ben swallowed hard, inching forward, searching for an exit. As he stepped into the center of the mirrored corridor, the polished surfaces suddenly multiplied his reflection. Countless Bens staring back at him. "So it's you, little mouse, sneaking into my home," a sinister voice echoed. "Perfect timing, I was just getting hungry." He 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 he. The reflections in the mirrors shifted instantly, transforming into countless zombozos. Their ghastly faces twisted under the ghostly candlelight, eyes filled with venomous delight, as if they were ready to tear him apart. Ben froze, fear flooding his body, an instinct screamed at him to run. But then his cousin's voice echoed in his mind. "Be fiercer than him. Be stronger than him. And he'll be the one who's afraid." Ben stopped mid-step. Slowly, he straightened his back, clenching his fists as his fear melted into determination. He glared at the mirror, locking eyes with the army of zombozos. "Don't think I'm scared of you. I'm a superhero. Beating up a gross clown like you is easy." Zombozo blinked in surprise before bursting into maniacal laughter. "Excellent. Then come down here and play with me." Thud. The ground beneath Ben collapsed in an instant, swallowing him into endless darkness. Under the dim, yellow light, Ben lay motionless on a dusty, cracked stage. Not far away stood a massive machine, covered in tangled pipes and studded with glowing blue orbs. Inside each orb, faint white shadows flickered, releasing haunting wails that echoed through the room. If Lucian had been there, he would have recognized it immediately. The cyclone machine, designed to drain human joy. "Wake up, kid," Zombozo sneered, leaning over the unconscious Ben before kicking him sharply in the side. Ben gasped and jolted awake, springing upright in alarm. "Good. You're awake," Zombozo grinned, his teeth glinting in the dim light. "Now let's see what you can do." Ben clenched his fists, forcing down the fear boiling inside him, and raised the Omnitrix on his wrist. "Forearms. Diamond head. Heat blast." He hesitated. "No, they're strong, but not scary enough." His eyes hardened. If the clown was terrifying, then he'd just have to become something even more terrifying. "Hey, kid. You ready? Because I'm about to begin." Zombozo stood with his hands clasped behind his back, the blue orbs embedded in his arms pulsing with flashes of white light, each one brimming with stolen human joy. "Got it." Ben's eyes lit up as he slammed his hand down on the Omnitrix. Thud. His skin turned pale and cracked with dark fissures. A single purple eye gleamed from his chest, radiating a chilling, deathly aura like a specter risen straight from hell. Ghost Freak floated in midair, his cold gaze locked on Zombozo. Zombozo blinked in surprise, then broke into mocking laughter. "Ha! I thought you'd turned into something impressive, but this? Just a second-rate magic trick. Pathetic." "Is that so?" Ghost Freak rasped, his voice low and hollow. "Then let's see if you're still laughing in a minute." Before Zombozo could react, Ghost Freak's body began to fade, dissolving into the air until he vanished completely. Zombozo's expression twisted in alarm. He spun around, scanning the shadows. A cold breath crept up behind him. Before he could turn, a force slammed into him like a hammer, sending him flying across the room and crashing into the massive machine nearby. Zombozo gritted his teeth, forcing down his panic. He staggered to his feet, grabbed one of the machine's thick pipes, and drove it straight into his back. Boom! A deafening roar shook the room. The blue canisters on the cyclone machine glowed violently, the white shadows inside writhing and churning in chaos. Moments later, the energy merged into a blinding blue beam that burst upward, tearing through the ceiling and streaking toward the sky. Streams of stolen joy flowed endlessly into Zombozo's body, his power swelling at a terrifying pace. Ghost Freak's expression darkened. This isn't good. He shot forward, trying to stop the flow of energy. But as he phased through the air and swung a punch toward Zombozo, the clown easily sidestepped. Too slow, Zombozo sneered, swinging his fist backward. His punch landed hard, sending Ghost Freak crashing into a wall. So strong! Ghost Freak groaned, his voice rasping as he pulled himself free from the cracked surface. For several minutes, the two battled fiercely. But as Zombozo continued to absorb power, his strength only grew, each strike heavier, faster, more brutal. He was turning into a monster. In the end, Ghost Freak couldn't keep up. An explosion from a rigged gift box sent him flying across the stage, his battered form landing hard among the broken boards, his body covered in deep gashes and burns. Meanwhile, Zombozo absorbed the last of the energy from the cyclone. His aura swelled until the air itself seemed to shudder. Throwing his hands high, his grin split wide with madness. I've absorbed the joy of everyone in this town. There's no one left who can stop me. This filthy world will soon belong to me, Zombozo, the Clown King. As his laughter echoed, a streak of blue light pierced through the darkness and burst into the chamber like a meteor. Big Chill emerged from the shadows, his icy gaze sweeping briefly over Zombozo before landing beside Ghost Freak. "'Cuz, you're here," Ghost Freak rasped, his voice weak but relieved. He glanced at the familiar emblem on Big Chill's chest. Lucian felt a strange sense of unease at hearing Ben's tone directed at him. It was still surreal seeing his cousin trapped inside that eerie alien form. "I couldn't beat him," Ghost Freak admitted, shame thick in his voice. "He's too strong." "You did well," Big Chill said calmly. "You faced him head-on and that already means something." "So, what now?" Ghost Freak asked hoarsely. "We take him down." With that, Big Chill spread his massive wings. A surge of freezing wind burst forth as he shot upward toward Zombozo. Ghost Freak's single eye gleamed faintly. A ragged laugh escaped him. "Ha, then let's do this together." From opposite sides, two ghostly figures, one wreathed in icy blue mist, the other cloaked in shadow, rushed forward, their powers intertwining as they launched their assault on Zombozo. Chapter 90, Intangibility. The damp air in the underground chamber clung to the skin. From the heavy soil above, droplets of water dripped steadily, splashing onto the cracked stage below and scattering into brief, glittering bursts before vanishing. Zombozo stood atop the cyclone machine, his bloated belly jutting forward as he looked at his two opponents with a mocking grin. "Interesting," he sneered. "Two freakish little brats. Fine, come at me together." He waved his hand lazily, daring them to attack. Big Chill exhaled sharply, unleashing a wave of freezing air that surged toward Zombozo. Crack, crack. Frost rapidly spread across the clown's body. In mere seconds, he was encased in thick layers of ice, transformed into a solid, lifeless sculpture. His grotesque face was frozen mid-expression beneath the transparent shell, every twisted feature perfectly visible. "Awesome! Cuz, that was amazing!" Ghost Freak shouted, awe flashing in his single purple eye. Just one breath and the enemy was frozen solid. To Ben, that was beyond cool. Big Chill, however, shook his head. "It's not over. Don't let your guard down. Back in town, Zombozo had absorbed only half the joy of the townspeople, and even then, he'd fought 4 arms to a standstill. Though he lost, the boost from the absorbed joy was enough to prove how dangerous it was. Now, after devouring the happiness of the entire town, his power had reached its peak. There was no way he'd go down that easily. Sure enough, the moment Big Chill spoke, the ice began to crack. Fissures spread rapidly across the surface, the frozen statue trembling violently. Boom! With a shattering roar, Zombozo flexed his massive arms and burst free, shards of ice scattering across the muddy ground. Ha 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 ha! That's it, he cackled wildly, his laughter echoing through the cavern. Pathetic. I was actually hoping this would be fun. Freak. Let a real superhero show you how it's done. Ghost Freak growled, his body turning transparent as he faded into the shadows. That same old trick again. Zombozo scoffed, flipping his palm to conjure a gleaming, ornate music box. I'm getting tired of this act. His eyes darted back and forth, sharp and cunning, his expression brimming with confidence. Big Chill snorted coldly and shifted into his spectral form. His blue wings spread wide as he shot forward, cutting through the air like a frozen blade. Unlike Ghost Freak, Big Chill's spectral state remained faintly visible, but his concealment was far more advanced. He could phase his body into another dimension, making him untouchable without specific spatial powers. Ghost Freak, on the other hand, expanded his molecular structure, allowing attacks to pass through him. It granted him invisibility but also made him easier to disrupt. Both forms had their strengths. Their one shared ability, moving freely through solid matter, let them glide effortlessly even underground. Big Chill's form shimmered as he approached, reduced to a ghostly blue silhouette surrounded by an icy aura. He streaked straight toward Zombozo, silent and deadly. Zombozo had been fiddling with the music box, preparing to expose Ghost Freak's position, when Big Chill lunged unexpectedly, vanishing into near-nothingness mid-flight. Wah! Caught off guard, Zombozo panicked. He hurled the ornate music box directly at the incoming spectre. Boom! Just as it neared Big Chill's face, the music box burst open, releasing a blinding wave of fiery light. The explosion roared through the cavern, a searing torrent of heat so intense it seemed to burn the air itself. Flames engulfed Big Chill's body in an instant. In Zombozo's crazed eyes, 2 tiny reflections of fire danced, flickering like twin furnaces. Watching the alien engulfed by flames, he threw back his head and laughed, revealing rows of stained yellow teeth. Ha 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 ha! You little punk! Thought Zombozo was an easy target? How's that for a lesson in pain? Gradually, the blazing inferno began to fade. A slender blue silhouette floated motionless in midair, completely unharmed. Its expression was calm and distant, as if untouched by the mortal world. This is impossible. Zombozo stammered, eyes bulging in disbelief. I packed that music box with concentrated explosives, and you're not even singed. The scene before him shattered everything he thought he understood. His entire worldview was on the verge of collapse. Wrong, Big Chill said, lazily wagging a clawed finger. It's not that I'm unscathed, I didn't even move. Though surrounded by the blinding blast, it had been safely phased into another dimension. Not a trace of heat had touched it, nor had the tremendous shockwave shifted its form in the slightest. Such was the wonder of dimensional space. Before the terrified eyes of the clown, Big Chill spread its vast wings. With a blur of motion, its form sliced straight through Zombozo's body. Crack! A chilling sound rang out as frost began spreading from within him, crystalline ice forming outward from his stomach, radiating an intense cold that rapidly spread across his body. Just as the freezing reached his head, a sharp glint flashed in Big Chill's eyes. It dropped out of its phased state and swung its fist. The blow landed squarely against Zombozo's face. Ah! Zombozo screamed, his body flung through the air like a kite with its string cut. He crashed into the rocky wall with a deafening impact, sending dust and debris cascading down. The pipe connecting him to the cyclone snapped violently, throwing the entire machine off balance. Thick white smoke began to pour out. Without the cyclone to sustain him, Zombozo could no longer convert human joy into power. The stolen energy within him began to surge out uncontrollably, turning back into pure happiness that shot skyward, returning to its rightful owners in the town. The mighty power that had filled him melted away like frost under the sun, vanishing rapidly. Ding! Alien hacker mission triggered. Completely destroy Zombozo's cyclone to save the souls of the town's residents. Complete the mission to unlock a random alien hero. The series of system prompts echoed in Lucian's mind. Big Chill's eyes narrowed. With a flap of its wings, it soared above the cyclone, then exhaled a torrent of freezing mist. Within seconds, the entire machine froze into a massive block of glittering ice. Game over, it said flatly, snapping its fingers. Snap! The frozen cyclone shattered in an instant, exploding into a storm of frost and shards that scattered like falling snow over the muddy ground. Mission complete, cyclone destroyed. Random alien hero chest obtained. Can be opened anytime. Big Chill nodded slightly, then turned its gaze toward the fallen Zombozo. The clown lay covered in dirt and bruises, barely managing to push himself up on trembling legs. He glared upward, his eyes burning with venom and hatred. You little brat, you're dead. Snarling, Zombozo pulled a blood-red mask from his coat and wound his arm back to throw it. But before he could, a chilling voice spoke from the shadows. I wouldn't do that if I were you. Ghost Freak materialized beside him, his hand snapping around Zombozo's arm like a vice. With his power drained, the clown could do nothing. No matter how he struggled, Ghost Freak's grip didn't budge. The alien tore the mask from his grasp and flung it aside. Leaning in close, its single purple eye gleamed as it rasped, You like scaring people, hey? Then let me show you something really fun. The words had barely left its mouth before Ghost Freak ripped open the fissure across its chest, unleashing a mass of black and white tentacles that writhed violently in the air. Chapter 91, Chapter 91, The Feeling of Resistance. Zombozo let out a shrill, blood-curdling scream, staggering backward as if he'd just seen a ghost. His face turned pale, his legs trembling uncontrollably. You, what kind of monster are you? You're terrifying. As a clown who thrived on devouring human joy, he'd always considered himself frightening enough. But now, he realized there were creatures even more horrifying than him. You're not scared of this ordinary little ghost, are you? Ghost Freak said in a chilling tone as he slowly drifted closer. He wasn't afraid of clowns anymore. Seeing the ghastly spirit closing in, Zombozo hurriedly pulled out a handful of streamers and threw them into the air. Don't run, loser! Ghost Freak roared, swinging his fist toward the panicked Zombozo. Byakuya! The thick bundle of streamers exploded with a sharp pop, bursting into colorful confetti. Zombozo vanished instantly, leaving only a rain of shimmering ribbons fluttering to the ground. Oh, man! I wanted to play a bit longer. Ghost Freak scratched his head. The Big Chill hovered in the air, his ghostly form flickering in and out of sight. Arms crossed, he said coldly, All right, Ben. Let's go. Grandpa and the others are still waiting for us. Got it. Ghost Freak nodded, grinning. I'm not scared of that clown anymore. If Zombozo dares to show up again, I'll give him a real beating. Big Chill nodded slightly. It seemed Ben had finally overcome his fear. With Zombozo fleeing in panic and the cyclone destroyed, the battle was over. After making sure no remnants were left behind, Big Chill and Ghost Freak phased into their spectral forms, slipping through the thick layers of soil and heading straight for the surface. Since the tunnel housing the cyclone machine wasn't far below ground, the two quickly emerged, greeted once more by the soft glow of moonlight. Big Chill's icy blue wings fluttered with quiet grace as he turned toward Ghost Freak. Ben, head back to the rust bucket. I'll check if that circus freak is still around. Though he couldn't kill them, that didn't mean Lucian had no way of handling them. At least with someone timid like Eliza, he had his own methods. Letting these people off too easily wouldn't teach them anything. The circus crew had long grown addicted to the thrill of taking what wasn't theirs. They needed a firm reminder. But Ghost Freak began, but the omnitrix on his chest started flashing red. A blinding light burst out, and in an instant, he reverted to his human form as Ben. He stood stiffly on the withered lawn, motionless. What's wrong? Are you hurt? Big Chill's wings beat gently, sending a chill through the air as he floated closer. Could he have been injured during the fight? Ben stared at his hands in confusion, shaking his head. "'Cause, I'm fine. It's just, this feeling's really weird. I don't know why, but when I changed back just now, I felt resistant. Like when you're about to win a game of sumo slammers and Grandpa tells you it's bedtime." Big Chill's eyes narrowed. This wasn't a good sign. He had thought the replica Omnitrix was completely safe, which was why he'd let Ben use it. But now, it didn't seem that way. And with the Omnitrix already fused to Ben's wrist, taking it off wouldn't be easy. After a moment's pause, the Big Chill croaked, "Try to transform into Ghost Freak less often from now on, understand?" "Fine," Ben shrugged, sighing helplessly. "Even though Ghost Freak is terrifying, I think it's pretty cool." "It's dangerous," the Big Chill shook her head slightly. "Hey, cuz, remember that Ghost Freak that escaped from your watch? After it possessed Kevin last time, it hasn't shown up again. Wonder where it went now." Ben paused, glancing down at his Omnitrix. "I wonder if the Ghost Freak in my watch might escape too." "Don't worry too much. Just stay vigilant." The Big Chill scooped up Ben and soared through the night sky. "Listen to me, just avoid transforming into Ghost Freak. If it really does escape, we'll just catch it again." Though he said this, from Ben's blind spot, the Big Chill's gaze was unusually grave, a feeling Ben had never sensed before. Currently, Ghost Freak was possessing Kevin, its whereabouts unknown. What if the two joined forces? Or worse, what if Kevin was completely controlled by Ghost Freak, becoming a ghostly version of Kevin 11? Combined with Ben's earlier concern about another specter appearing, the situation would become truly perilous. A single Ghost Freak was already troublesome enough, two would be unbearable. Of course, such futile worries were pointless. The greater the crisis, the more urgently Lucian craved to grow stronger. Lost in thought, Big Chill had already carried Ben back to the circus camp. After the battle between Diamond Head and the circus freak, the place was now a desolate wasteland, utterly ravaged. Torn tents, giant beast footprints, pools of corrosive acid, and shards of emerald crystal littered the dark, muddy ground. "Stay here. I'll be back soon." With that, the Big Chill transformed into a blue phantom, swiftly darting through the debris to search for the circus trio. Moments later, the Big Chill returned, finding no trace of the others, likely already long gone. Just as Ben was about to respond, the Big Chill suddenly grabbed him again, enveloping him in a chill as they soared toward the distant highway. But when they landed, they found nothing unusual except a frozen rhinoceros and a path paved with ice. "Cuz, why did you bring me here?" Ben asked, puzzled. The Big Chill scanned the surroundings, then sighed. "Looks like that little girl got away. Let's head back." When the two returned to the rust bucket, they found Gwen and Grandpa had fully recovered. All traces of the fatigue and drowsiness they'd felt during the performance vanished. Not only that, but the townspeople had also returned to normal. Their eyes were bright and alert as they bustled along the crowded pedestrian street, chatting and laughing, their merriment filling the air. Ben sat in the passenger seat, his expression fired up as he excitedly recounted his heroic deeds underground to Grandpa and Gwen, and of course, Lucian's timely rescue. Gwen snorted lightly, retorting without hesitation, "I bet it was Cuz who took down the clown." "You, with your doofus ways, would have been scared out of your wits. She even made a silly face to tease Ben across from her. No way. I did my part too. Ben protested indignantly. All right. Grandpa Max believes you both did great, Grandpa Max said with a kind, gentle smile. Chatting and laughing, they drove the rust bucket away from the town under the morning glow, heading toward their next destination. Chapter 92, Hex. Inside the glass case lay one of the greatest discoveries of the century, the peerless, priceless Archamata Book of Spells. In the ancient museum, an elderly tour guide spoke in a slow, weary tone as she introduced the rare collection. Her voice was so monotonous that Lucian nearly dozed off beside her. Cool. I know about the Archamata Book of Spells. Gwen's eyes sparkled as she fixed her gaze on the spell book inside the glass case. It contains every ancient spell and incantation recorded since the late 15th century. It's a treasure every wizard dreams of owning. Oh, please, nerd. If it's that amazing, how come no one's stolen it yet? Ben rolled his eyes. Gwen smacked him lightly on the head. Idiot. Museums have security, obviously. Regular wizards can only pull off simple tricks to fool kids. How could they possibly steal the Archamata Book of Spells? That might be true, but I still think such a priceless tome shouldn't be kept here, Grandpa Max said, stroking his chin thoughtfully. The old museum was steeped in history, filled with the murmurs of curious visitors moving from exhibit to exhibit. The air carried a heavy sense of age as people gawked at artifacts they'd never heard of, let alone seen in person. Among the displays were the scepter of an ancient Egyptian pharaoh, the monkey's paw sealed within an iron gauntlet, the sword Aim no Murakumo, the armor of a holy knight, the eternal spear Gungnir, the Holy Grail, the star coin, and even the cursed doll Annabelle. As the crowd grew thicker, Grandpa Max began to sweat. The air was heavy and stuffy, filled with heat and the unpleasant mix of body odor and carbon dioxide. He wiped his forehead. Let's go somewhere else. It's too hot in here. My old bones can't handle this anymore. Awesome. Finally, we're getting out of this place. It's so boring. Ben cheered, practically ready to turn into XLR8 and dash through the crowd. Lucian, could you help keep an eye on Gwen and Ben? Grandpa asked with a kind smile. They're short, so they might get pushed back in the crowd. No need, Grandpa. I got this. Ben pounded his chest only to be shoved aside by a burly man, nearly falling right into Lucian's arms. Gwen, her orange hair and green eyes catching the museum's dim light, brushed her bangs aside and whispered shyly, This doesn't feel right. It's too much trouble for Lucian. It's fine. Let's just get out of here first. Lucian smiled calmly. Standing at about 5 feet 10 inches, he easily towered over most of the crowd. Protecting 2 10-year-olds was no problem at all. With you around, Lucian, this old man can finally relax, Grandpa Max chuckled, a note of admiration in his voice. But just as Lucian was about to lead them out, his feet suddenly felt weightless. His body lost its anchor to the ground, floating upward toward the museum ceiling like a drifting feather. What's going on? Lucian's expression sharpened as he looked around. To his shock, everyone else in the museum was also suspended mid-air, as though the earth had suddenly lost its gravity. The crowd erupted into chaos. Faces went pale as screams, cries for help, and terrified wails filled the vast hall. Help! Somebody, please! Oh my God, I must be dreaming. I'm totally telling my girlfriend about this when I wake up. Ah! What's happening? Did Earth turn into the moon? This is bad. Don't tell me the museum artifacts are behind this. People suspended in midair kicked their legs desperately, but it was useless. They were frozen in place, unable to return to the ground. Ah! Cuz, what's happening? Gwen cried out in panic, glancing anxiously at Lucian beside her. Did the museum's gravity just vanish? Lucian looked down, then shook his head. No, the exhibits haven't moved. And that tissue on the floor hasn't either. This isn't gravity, it's affecting only the people inside the museum, making all of us float. After a quick, calm analysis, Lucian came to the conclusion without losing his composure like the others. So, what now? Ben drifted up and down in the air, staring at the Omnitrix on his wrist. He was already thinking about turning into Stinkfly to save everyone. At that moment, Grandpa Max frowned slightly, about to say something when his pupils suddenly shrank. At the museum's entrance, a strange figure stepped slowly inside. He was gaunt and pale, draped in a dark crimson robe. A necklace hung from his neck, inlaid with a glowing stone. In his hand, he held a grey wand shaped like an open bird's beak, as though it could unleash deadly magical energy at any moment. A chilling, sinister aura surrounded him. It was Hex. Lucian recognized him instantly. The man's power was formidable, especially when he possessed the charms of Bezel. The Audiobook of spells is mine now, Hex declared, striding straight toward the glass display case. Fatami Doof. He chanted an incantation, and the reinforced glass shattered instantly. Countless shards rained down like crystal raindrops, scattering across the museum's tiled floor. Seeing the intruder about to seize the tome, Ben clenched his fists and shouted, "Freak! I'm not letting you steal the Makamaka, Audiobook of spells." "It's the Audiobook of spells," Gwen sighed helplessly. "Whatever. He's not leaving here today." Ben slammed down on the Omnitrix. Thud. A burst of eerie green light flashed, instantly drawing Hex's attention. "Meta waits." Hex raised his grey wand high, chanting an ancient, obscure spell that echoed through the entire museum. Whoosh! As the final syllable fell, a powerful wind surged in all directions, dispelling the levitation magic over everyone in the building. The crowd hanging in the air suddenly plummeted like falling dumplings, crashing toward the hard tile floor below. Screams erupted everywhere. The roaring wind shrieked in their ears, striking fear deep into their hearts. From this height nearly 2 stories, anyone landing head first would be doomed. Among the falling crowd was Ben, who had just transformed into Upgrade. His gelatinous body stretched outward, wrapping Gwen and Grandpa Max in his embrace. Enveloping them completely, he morphed into a black and green sphere, hurtling toward the ground. He had intended to turn into XLR8, but his faulty Omnitrix had other ideas. Now he was Upgrade, unable to protect everyone else. At this critical moment, he could only focus on shielding those closest to him. Just as the crowd was about to hit the ground, a blue blur swept past above them, wings spread wide, releasing a surge of icy air. If you'd like to support my work and unlock advanced chapters, you can follow me on Patreon. Up to 50 chapters ahead for now. Patreon.com/pinksnake. Chapter 93, Chapter 93, The Power of the Charms of Bezel. Whoosh! From Big Chill's mouth burst a torrent of freezing air that condensed beneath the falling crowd, forming a vast, crystalline curtain of ice. It spread like a dreamlike blue galaxy, instantly dispelling the museum's stifling heat as a cool wind swept across the hall. Amid the chorus of terrified screams, panicked visitors slid down the glittering sheet of ice and landed safely on the ground. Thanks to the icy curtain's cushioning effect, most escaped with nothing worse than minor sprains, a far better outcome than the carnage that could have been. But when they spotted the terrifying sorcerer and the blue moth-like creature hovering above, screams rang out again. Chaos erupted as people scattered in all directions, scrambling for the museum's exit. Upgrade reverted to human form and released the 2 trapped inside the sphere. Gwen gasped for air, panting. "Geez, doofus, I almost suffocated in there. But, thanks." Grandpa Max caught his breath, his eyes narrowing as he turned toward Lucian and Hex locked in combat. His expression grew tense. "Ben, go help your cousin." He glanced around, spotted a sword in an exhibit case, drew it out, and let a faint smile tug at his lips. High above, Big Chill floated in the air, exhaling a wave of icy breath. The frost-laden air surged forward, carrying a cutting chill as it hurtled toward Hex. Verdi Mordonata. As the words rang out, Hex raised his grey, bird-beak-shaped wand. The charm stone on his chest blazed to life, unleashing a torrent of roaring flame from the wand's tip. The scorching fire met the freezing air head-on. Whoosh! One side blazed with searing flames, the other shimmered with piercing cold. The collision unleashed a shockwave that rippled through the air, whipping the curtains wildly like frenzied witches in a storm. The violent blast shattered the glass display cases below, sending shards scattering across the floor in glittering showers. Big Chill beat his wings harder, amplifying the freezing gusts until they overpowered Hex's flames. The icy blast swallowed the fire completely and shot straight toward the sorcerer. Hero time! Upgrade appeared below them. From the green circle on his head, a beam of energy erupted, blasting Hex backward and slamming him into the window frame of the museum. Perfect chance! Seeing the opening, Big Chill unleashed another surge of cold, like an enraged ice dragon, trying to freeze Hex solid. But the floor tiles near Hex suddenly lifted and stacked themselves in front of him, barely blocking the attack. Crack! Dozens of tiles froze solid under the biting cold and shattered to pieces as they hit the floor, scattering like broken glass. Hex rose to his feet. Among the charms of bezel hanging on his chest, one pendant glowed brightly, its golden surface etched with complex runes. The charm of levitation. Big Chill's eyes narrowed. So that was how Hex had suspended everyone in the museum earlier. Water Dragon Soul. Gwen stood her ground, unflinching before the sinister mage. She chanted a water magic incantation and raised her hand, summoning a fierce dragon of swirling water vapor that roared and lunged toward Hex. Ancient water magic? Fascinating. Hex sneered, then said coldly, but compared to my clever niece, you're still far behind. He slammed his wand against the ground. Thud. A radiant purple barrier erupted around him, swirling with shimmering light and dense magical energy. The water dragon crashed against the barrier, rippling it with force before dissolving into mist that slowly faded into nothing. Is that all you've got? Hex sneered coldly, his eyes flashing with murderous intent. And me? A voice suddenly rang out from behind. Unnoticed, Grandpa Max had quietly slipped up behind Hex. Raising the legendary sword, he swung it with all his strength at his opponent. The magnificent blade gleamed brilliantly, its sharp edge exuding an air of royal authority as it came crashing down on the purple barrier. Snap! A crisp sound echoed through the hall as the ancient sword shattered cleanly. It failed to even stir a ripple before breaking into two useless chunks of metal that clattered onto the cold floor. Guess museum artifacts aren't always genuine. Grandpa Max turned and bolted, his movements surprisingly quick for someone his age. Hex's face darkened. He raised his wand, unleashing a bolt of crimson energy that shot out like a venomous serpent, lashing viciously toward Grandpa Max's back. Grandpa! Gwen shouted anxiously. Whoosh! A sharp blast of frigid air swept across the path of the crimson magic, instantly shattering it into countless wisps of vapor that rose and dissipated into the air. At the same moment, Upgrade arrived on the scene. He glanced around, but there wasn't a single machine nearby to merge with. After all, this was a museum. Oh, damn it! Upgrade scratched his head in frustration, then fired twin emerald lasers from his eyes. The beams cut through the air and struck directly at Hex. But even this failed to penetrate Hex's barrier, only sending out a wave of rippling energy. I'll handle this! Big Chill's body dissolved into a shimmering blue silhouette that flickered rapidly as he shot toward Hex. Verdi Mordonata! Hex raised his grey wand. The charm of fire on his chest blazed to life, erupting in a torrent of fierce crimson flames that surged menacingly toward his foe. Yet the fiery wave passed straight through Big Chill's intangible form. Unfazed, the spectral alien radiated an even colder aura. Under Hex's horrified gaze, Big Chill phased directly through the purple barrier. "How is this possible?" Hex exclaimed, preparing to chant another spell. But before he could, Big Chill was already in front of him. The ghostly figure dove into his body, and in the next instant, ice began to crystallize from within, spreading rapidly outward. Chapter 94, Chapter 94, A Transformation Spell? In mere moments, Hex, frozen in shock, was encased in crystal-clear ice. Under the ancient lamplight, his form gleamed with a sinister, chilling light. "Cuz, you're amazing! You took down that evil wizard in one move." Gwen's wide, sparkling eyes were filled with awe and excitement. At the same time, curiosity flickered within her. This new alien hero not only had the power to phase through matter but could also control formidable ice. With this alien on their side, catching Ghost Freak next time might finally be possible. Upgrade stepped forward, studying the motionless Hex trapped within the ice sculpture. He smirked. "Buddy, next time you borrow books, remember to visit the library." Sizzle. Suddenly, the charm of fire pendant on Hex's chest flared to life, blazing with golden light. Intense flames burst forth, melting through the layers of ice encasing his body. The crystals dissolved into droplets of water that splashed onto the cold stone floor. "You brat, daring to speak so arrogantly." As he spoke, Hex lifted his beak-shaped wand, drawing fiery energy from the air in a violent surge. "Verdi Mordonata." With the incantation, a monstrous bull made of fire materialized before them. Its blood-red eyes glared fiercely, twin horns jutting from its massive head, its colossal body radiating unbearable heat. "Weirdo, let the great hero teach you a lesson." A green laser burst from the circle on Upgrade's head, scorching the air as it shot straight toward the enemy. "Is that so? Then let me see what you can do," Hex sneered, flicking his wand. Moo! The flaming bull charged forward, its bell-sized eyes overflowing with molten red fire. Despite its size, it moved with terrifying speed, like a blazing locomotive, and roared as it collided head-on with the laser beam. Whoosh! The searing green beam pierced through the bull's fiery body without resistance, continuing its assault toward Hex himself. Hex slammed his grey staff into the ground, conjuring a purple protective shield before him. The raging laser struck it like a furious dragon, cracking it with a web of fractures before the beam finally dispersed into the rising heat. By now, the ferocious fire bull had already stormed toward the stunned Upgrade. "Ben, get out of the way!" Grandpa Max shouted. But it was too late. Though enormous, the bull's speed was blinding. Just as the flaming horns were about to impale Upgrade, a blue figure appeared before him, blocking the attack. "Cuz," Upgrade muttered, his eyes flickering. Facing the raging beast, Big Chill exhaled a torrent of icy breath. The frigid air condensed midair into a massive pillar of ice, thick as a tree trunk, which came crashing down on the bull's head. Boom! A thunderous crack echoed as the fiery bull slammed into the ice pillar. Its sharp horns snapped instantly, and the freezing pillar laden with biting cold drove straight through its body, piercing it completely. Midair, Big Chill clenched his hand, and the enormous pillar exploded. The fire bull was torn apart in an instant, scattering flaming fragments and shards of ice that rained down like glittering snow. "Awesome!" Upgrade couldn't help but exclaim. "That move was incredible, way cooler than mine." "Cuz, you're amazing! You just took out that giant fire bull!" Gwen said in astonishment, her emerald eyes reflecting the flickering dance of ice and flame. "Nice work, Lucian," Grandpa Max added with a rare smile, giving a thumbs up. He didn't hand out praise often. "Damn it, what kind of monster are you?" Hex growled, his voice tight with frustration. "Are you talking about yourself?" Big Chill replied coldly before shifting into his spectral form. A blue humanoid silhouette flared into being, its ethereal wings fluttering like those of a butterfly from an icy realm, as it darted swiftly toward Hex. Panicking, Hex raised his grey wand and conjured several multicolored barriers before him. Layer upon layer stacked together, desperately trying to block the approaching phantom. To defeat Lucian, Hex unleashed every spell he knew, summoning protective enchantments without restraint, anything to stop the assault. But Big Chill, existing in another dimension, was untouchable. His ghostly form phased through Hex's walls of defense with ease, closing the distance between them in an instant. "Wait, I've done nothing to you." Before Hex could finish, Big Chill's spectral form dove into his body, unleashing a torrent of bone-chilling cold that froze him solid in an instant. Within seconds, Hex was encased in ice, his expression frozen in shock, mouth agape as if still trying to speak. Sizzle! A searing hiss cut through the silence. From the fiery pendant on Hex's chest, blazing heat erupted, melting the ice outward from his torso. The intense temperature scorched a gaping hole through the frost, the melting rapidly spreading across his body. In just 2 seconds, Hex had freed his upper half. His dark crimson robe was soaked through, clinging to him like the feathers of a drenched bird. He was about to speak when Big Chill's fist smashed straight into his face. Hex screamed, his body flung backward with tremendous force before crashing hard into the wall. At the same time, the charm of bezel around his neck jolted violently, and one of the small glowing stones detached, tumbling into the cold wind. 5 charm stones, one now missing from the center. Slamming into the wall, Hex's face throbbed with pain, too dazed to notice the missing charm. But Big Chill wasn't about to give him a moment's rest. The alien exhaled another wave of freezing air that condensed midair into a storm of icy spears. Each spear gleamed like crystal, slicing through the air with a vicious chill as they shot toward Hex like striking serpents. Ignoring the ache in his body, Hex raised his bird-beak staff once again. Bellum Akaro Mazara. The moment the spell was spoken, 2 massive grey-white hands burst out from the wall behind him. Twisting like giant serpents, they lunged forward, roaring as they reached for the icy spears. Boom! The glittering ice spears collided head-on with the pale stone arms. The impact shattered both into a spray of shards and dust, scattering a glittering storm of ice and stone that drifted slowly to the ground. As the glow faded from the charm on Hex's chest, Big Chill's gaze hardened. His voice was low and rough. "That's a transformation spell." The transformation spell could freely alter the form of objects and completely control their movement. Just moments ago, Hex had used its power to turn the wall into those enormous arms. While Big Chill analyzed the situation, Upgrade had already charged forward. He clenched his metallic fist tight, the surface rippling like liquid steel, then drove it hard into Hex's abdomen. "You're finished, Mr. Mage." Buzz! In an instant, a surge of purple energy burst from Hex's body, blasting the overconfident Upgrade backward. He smashed through several exhibits, sending glass and debris flying, before finally crashing to the floor and lying motionless amid the wreckage. "Ben!" Grandpa Max shouted, sprinting toward him. "Verdi Mordonata!" Hex incanted again, channeling the power of the charm of fire. A torrent of scorching flames erupted from his wand, roaring straight toward Grandpa Max and the fallen Upgrade. Seeing this, Gwen stepped forward without hesitation. Raising her hands, she summoned a translucent bubble of shimmering water that enveloped them both. Chapter 95, Chapter 95, The Rock Creatures. Crackle! Blazing crimson flames lashed like the tongues of a demon dragon, furiously striking against the soft water barrier, threatening to swallow it whole. Gwen gritted her teeth, sweat beading on her forehead as she poured every bit of her magic into holding it back. Steam rose from the water's surface, devoured by the raging flames that were closing in fast. It wouldn't last much longer. Hex chanted louder, his voice echoing as the fire grew even more intense. His magic far outclassed Gwen's. If not for water's natural advantage over fire, she would have already fallen. Such powerful magic! Gwen's brows furrowed, her slender arms trembling as she struggled to keep the barrier stable. Just as she was about to collapse, Big Chill arrived. With one mighty flap of his wings, an icy mist burst forth, instantly smothering the dragon-shaped blaze. Thanks. Cuz. Gwen sighed in relief, her arms falling limp as exhaustion overtook her. Her eyes rolled back, and she crumpled to the ground, completely unconscious. Big Chill caught her and swiftly dodged a stone spear hurled from behind. In a flash, he appeared in a corner of the museum. At the same time, Upgrade, his systems fully recovered, stood up and carefully set Grandpa Max aside. He moved to stand beside Big Chill, both of them upright and steady as they faced the evil Hex. Hex's expression was cold, his pitch-black eyes fixed on them. "I've already claimed the Audiobook of spells," he said icily. "Once I master it, I'll unlock the full power of the Keystone of Bezel. When that time comes, I'll return to finish you both." With that, the runes on Hex's talisman glowed, lifting him into the air as he turned toward the window. Upgrade's eyes flared, firing a fierce green laser that roared toward him. Thud! In an instant, a violet shield flared behind Hex, easily deflecting the blast. Without slowing, he continued to soar away. Clatter! Big Chill launched a ranged attack, freezing the open window into a solid curtain of blue ice that shimmered like a frozen waterfall, cutting off Hex's escape. Hex raised his grey wand. From its bird beak tip shot dozens of fiery needles thin, fast, and deadly aimed at both of them. "Oh, great!" Upgrade glanced around quickly, then melted into a pool of metallic liquid, merging with a nearby suit of paladin armor. He fired sweeping green lasers to block the storm of fire needles. Big Chill, unfazed, shifted into his phantom form, letting the flames pass harmlessly through him as he surged forward, wrapped in an aura of biting cold. Hex's lips curved slightly, as if expecting this. "By T Disca," he chanted. The charms on his chest burst into radiant golden light. Boom! The ground beneath the museum trembled violently as 5 towering stone golems erupted from below. Each stood 5 meters tall, eyes glowing crimson, jagged fangs bared, their pitch-black bodies swirling with thick, sinister magic. The moment they appeared, they let out deafening roars, smashing the floor beneath them as they charged straight toward Grandpa Max and Gwen in the corner. "Ben, hold them off!" Big Chill turned his head. But before he could finish, the Omnitrix on Upgrade's body began to flicker. A blinding red light erupted, and he reverted to Ben's original form. "Oh, man, this is so uncool." Ben looked down at the Omnitrix trapped in the red screen. "You lousy watch, what planet are you even from?" Seeing Ben restored, Big Chill's heart sank. He turned to face Hex. Hex let out a cold snort, a smug smile curling his lips. "Whether to chase me or save them, that's your call." With those words, Hex shattered the frozen window and flew out without looking back. Ding! Alien hacker mission triggered. Rescue the dying Grandpa Max and Gwen to obtain a random enhancement effect. "How despicable," Big Chill growled hoarsely, turning to charge at the ferocious stone golems. Meanwhile, in a corner, Grandpa Max scooped up Gwen and tried to flee, but 5 stone golems surrounded him, blocking every path. Though he had plenty of combat experience, he was just an ordinary man without weapons. Faced with these supernatural creatures, he could do nothing. Grandpa Ben, now back to normal, showed no fear even against these massive magical beings. He grabbed a sword from the ground and swung it with all his strength at one of their legs. Clang! The blade, though seemingly sharp, only struck sparks off the stone golem's body, leaving no mark. One of the golems swung its enormous, rock-solid fist down toward Grandpa Max like a collapsing mountain. Grandpa Max, holding the unconscious Gwen, quickly rolled aside, narrowly escaping the blow. Boom! The golem's punch, carrying mountain-splitting force, smashed a gaping hole through the thick wall. Rubble flew and dust billowed through the air. Seeing their target trying to flee, the 5 monstrous golems raised their arms high, power surging through them as they slammed down together with earth-shaking force. Just as it seemed the two would be crushed, despair filled Grandpa Max's eyes. After decades of battles across the galaxy, was this really how he would die at the hands of these nobodies? Ben kept slashing wildly, but the golem's stone bodies were too hard, their attack unstoppable. At that critical moment, a blue phantom streaked past like a noble ice spirit, ghostly weaving through the golem's bodies. Crack! 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 Within seconds, the ferocious golems were frozen solid by the icy aura emanating from Big Chill, turning into 5 colossal ice sculptures. The scene was breathtaking. But the golem's raw strength was immense. Their fists clenched as they struggled to break free from the ice. Big Chill let out a cold snort, tapped the Omnitrix on his chest, and transformed into a rapidly spinning yellow metal sphere. He dove straight down, carrying terrifying kinetic energy, crashing into the stone golems below like a blazing storm. Boom! 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 With explosive impact, the 5 golems were shattered to pieces by the spinning yellow sphere. Black stones and ice fragments scattered across the shattered ground. After destroying the golems, the yellow sphere slowed its rotation, stopped, and stood upright, transforming into a chubby, giant fat bear. Chapter 96, Chapter 96, Cannon Bolt. Its plump body had exceptionally thick limbs. Except for its hard, golden yellow back, the rest of it was grayish-white. What an amazing alien! It can transform into a giant iron ball and roll around, smashing the stone man into pieces. I'll call you Cannon Bolt. Ben touched its belly and found it surprisingly soft. Cannon Bolt rested its chin thoughtfully. Not a bad name. I approve. Beneath its hard shell, Cannon Bolt's interior was remarkably soft. During combat, it would curl into a yellow sphere, spinning at high speed to deliver lethal blows through sheer kinetic force. At that moment, Gwen's eyelids fluttered slightly as she slowly opened her eyes. Seeing this, Grandpa Max gently lowered her from his arms and carefully supported her. "Gwen, how are you feeling?" he asked with concern, his grey hair glinting under the light. "I'm fine," Gwen shook her head. "Just drained too much magic. A good sleep will fix it." Her gaze then swept over the wrecked surroundings. Craters pocked the floor, and huge holes gaped in the walls. It looked as though a terrifying monster had just rampaged through. "What happened? I must have missed something," Gwen murmured, dazed. "Geek, Lucian saved you. Shouldn't you say something?" Ben spread his hands helplessly. Then, Grandpa Max recounted everything that had happened, including the terrifying stone golems. After hearing her grandfather's words, Gwen's face turned pink. She quickly thanked Lucian and threw her arms around him in a tight hug. "Thank you, cuz. You're the best," she said, holding him close. Lucian smiled and gently patted her back. "It's nothing. Grandpa saved you first. If he hadn't carried you out of the way, I might not have arrived in time." "Thank you, Grandpa," Gwen said, her eyes glistening as she looked up at her kind-hearted grandfather. Then she buried her face against Lucian's chest again, holding him tightly and refusing to let go. Ding successfully rescued Grandpa Max and Gwen. Obtained random enhancement effect. Big Chill, greatly enhances control over cold energy. Can transform into various animals and plants to attack targets. Note, not merely mimicking a creature's shape but embodying its essence, allowing attacks that carry its natural abilities. Lucian paused, a flicker of delight crossing his eyes. This ability surpassed even Diamond Head's weaponization. In essence, the creatures formed by Big Chill weren't just hollow shapes. For example, if cold energy took the form of a bull, a simple imitation would charge forward stiffly. But with both form and spirit, it could gallop with powerful legs and unleash a true bull's charge. Similarly, if Big Chill condensed into a python, it wouldn't just slam into its enemies, it could open its sharp fangs and viciously bite down. In short, every construct formed from cold energy could attack with the same characteristics as the life form it represented. Of course, that didn't mean Diamond Head was weaker than Big Chill. After a 25% enhancement in crystal hardness, Diamond Head's crystals were far tougher than Big Chill's ice, giving him greater defense and destructive power. If Diamond Head's crystals could do this too, how powerful would he be? Lucian murmured to himself. He imagined a crystal rhinoceros charging at full speed. What a terrifying sight that would be! Right now, he could form a flawless rhinoceros, but it couldn't move. It was still just a lifeless construct. Its crystal limbs were immobile, its power limited and impractical, more effort than reward. Turning it into a weapon was far more useful. Just as the group was about to leave the museum, Ben's sharp eyes caught something. He crouched down and picked up a stone from the rubble. It was dull yellow, edged with intricate patterns. At first glance, it didn't look special at all, just like a cheap trinket from a street stall. Whoa, look what I found! Ben's eyes widened, then drooped as he sighed in disappointment. Just a useless rock. What a waste of my excitement! He started to toss it away. Hold on! Lucian stopped him, taking the stone from his hand as his gaze sharpened. This is a charm of luck. After a moment of careful inspection, he spoke slowly. "'Cuz, what does it do?" Gwen asked curiously. "Whoever wears the charm of luck becomes incredibly fortunate, like being possessed by a luck king," Lucian said with a faint smile. "What's a luck king? Can you eat it?" Ben scratched his head in confusion. "Doofus, cuz means someone with amazing luck," Gwen said confidently, though she wasn't exactly sure herself what a luck king was supposed to be. "This seems to belong to that evil wizard." Grandpa Max stroked his chin, frowning slightly. "Items of unknown origin shouldn't be used. They could have side effects." "Relax, Grandpa. That wizard looked pretty tough to me, not nearly as scary as you think," Ben shrugged. "But if that evil wizard was wearing the charm of luck, why wasn't he lucky?" "He seemed pretty normal to me," Gwen said, puzzled. "Maybe he couldn't draw out its power." "Everyone's body works differently," Lucian said with a knowing smile, handing the charm of luck to Gwen. In the original timeline, Hex indeed couldn't use the charm of luck's power, but for some reason, Gwen could. Lucian guessed it was due to the energy within her, allowing her to fully unlock the amulet's magic. Gazing at the charm in her hand, Gwen's eyes lit up in surprise. "Cool. Is this a gift from you, cuz?" "Yes. Only you can bring out its true potential," Lucian nodded. "Thank you, cuz," Gwen said excitedly, clutching the precious charm close, clearly unwilling to part with it. Before long, the group left the ravaged museum, just before the city enforcement team arrived. Late that night, inside a decaying, dust-covered house, Hex strode quickly to a rickety wooden chair and sat down without hesitation. His face glowed with excitement as he pulled an ancient book from his cloak. The Audiobook of Spells. His eyes gleamed. "With this, I can finally unleash the full power of the charms of Bezel." He eagerly flipped to the pages describing the pendant chain and began chanting the ancient incantation with fervor. The strange, archaic symbols echoed through the empty, decaying room. Sizzle! A brilliant golden light erupted from Hex's charms of Bezel, dazzling and radiant, as if a divine miracle had descended from the heavens. But just as his excitement peaked, the once blazing charms of Bezel suddenly dimmed without warning, fading like the last light of dusk. "No!" Hex looked down and froze. One of the pendants was missing. "My charm of luck! Where did it go?" His bloodshot eyes widened with fury, his expression twisting into madness. Without the complete charms of Bezel, he couldn't channel the supreme magic. "I know!" Hex snarled, slamming his fist down and shattering the wooden table before him. "It must have been those museum brats. They stole my pendant during the fight. Just you wait, you alien freaks! Chapter 97, Chapter 97, Luck. The next morning, golden sunlight spread softly across the basketball court as a cool breeze swept through, refreshing and clear. The rust bucket was parked nearby. After leaving the museum yesterday, everyone had come here to rest and recover. Early in the morning, Ben ran over to Lucian's bed with a basketball in his arms. "Cuz, let's go play. It's such a nice day. Play ball." Lucian, still half asleep, perked up instantly. "Let's go. I'm in." Ever since arriving in this world, he hadn't played basketball once. Back home, he had been a key player on his high school team. He loved the game. Even between classes, during 10-minute breaks, he'd drag his friends out to the court for a few quick shots. The court was empty at dawn, so Lucian and Ben didn't need to wait for a team. They began shooting right away. "Watch me." Ben gritted his teeth, gripping the ball to his chest before hurling it forward with all his strength. Thud. The ball slammed hard against the backboard and rebounded instantly, landing neatly in Lucian's hands. "Ben, that's not how you play basketball." Lucian smiled lightly, spinning the ball on his fingertip. "Your shooting form matters. It's easier to fix it now than later." Watching the ball spin perfectly, Ben's eyes lit up. "Cuz, teach me. I wanna play like you." Over the next half hour, Lucian patiently corrected Ben's shooting form and taught him how to dribble. As he guided Ben, he gradually regained his old rhythm: the ball control, the fluid movement, the precision in every shot. "Looks fun. Can I join?" Gwen walked over, a simple, ancient-looking pendant hanging from her neck. Seeing her, Lucian passed her the ball with a smile. "Gwen, take a shot." Gwen's face flushed as she began dribbling, but her inexperience quickly showed the ball slipped from her hands again and again. "All right, just give it a try," Lucian said, barely holding back a laugh. Ben smirked at the sight. "Relax, that nerd's not making a shot. She looks like she couldn't lift a chicken." "Doofus. I'm a karate master," Gwen huffed, tossing the ball in defiance. But she was too far from the hoop, and with just one hand, the ball didn't even reach the two-point line before diving straight toward the ground. Woof! Out of nowhere, a playful golden retriever broke free from its leash, sprinting under the falling ball. With a strong leap, it head-butted the ball back into the air straight toward the hoop. Swish! The ball traced a perfect arc and dropped cleanly through the net. "Oh yeah! Who's the best?" Gwen cheered, grinning triumphantly at her cousin. Ben's jaw nearly hit the floor. "No way, that actually went in? Total dumb luck." Even Lucian was stunned. The effect of that charm was unbelievable. He noticed the charm of luck around Gwen's neck glowing faintly with golden light. It looked truly magical. "That was just luck," Ben muttered, refusing to believe it. He glared at the smug Gwen. "If you're so good, do it again." Gwen snorted. "Doofus, watch and learn." She stepped back to the three-point line, turning her back to the hoop. "A backward three-pointer." Lucian's eyes narrowed. Scoring from that range wasn't hard, but hitting it backward? That took impossible precision. Holding the ball in one hand, Gwen flicked it powerfully over her shoulder toward the hoop. Whoosh! A strange gust of wind swept across the court, slowing the ball's momentum. It started to drop, falling short, straight toward the one-point line. Just when it looked like a total miss, the golden retriever appeared again. Tongue lolling, it leapt up, bumping the ball skyward with its head. Whoosh! The ball ricocheted off the side of the rust bucket, bounced onto a nearby sun-dried mattress, then sprang upward, landing on an overhead cable. A sudden gust blew through, rolling the ball along the wire directly above the hoop. It dropped and swish! Perfectly through the basket again. Ben stood frozen, eyes bulging in disbelief. Is this even possible? How about that, doofus?" Gwen clapped her hands and laughed. It was just luck, Ben said, waving it off, clearly refusing to admit defeat. The power of that charm of luck is unreal, Lucian murmured to himself. Could using magic that strong really come without any side effects? Just then, Gwen yawned, looking a bit drowsy. I'm getting sleepy again, cuz. You guys keep playing. With that, she turned to leave. Suddenly, a sharp cry rang out from nearby. Help! Someone's stealing my purse. Everyone turned toward the voice. A fashionable middle-aged woman was sprinting after a group of young men, panic written across her face. About 5 or 6 of them stood together, their hair dyed in every color imaginable. They looked like a mismatched cartoon team. Piercings, skinny jeans, flashy outfits, the textbook definition of street punks. Hero time! Ben shouted, rushing behind the rust bucket. He slammed the Omnitrix, but no matter how hard he pressed, it wouldn't pop up. Come on, you stupid watch! Meanwhile, Gwen, who had seen the robbery, had already dashed forward to block the thugs. Lucian tried to stop her, but she didn't hear him and charged straight ahead. With no other choice, Lucian ran to the rust bucket, pressed the Omnitrix, switched to an alien hero, and slammed his hand down. Thud! A flicker of green light flashed and quickly faded. He looked down at his tiny hands, then up at the rust bucket, which now seemed impossibly huge beside him. Grey matter. Chapter 98, Chapter 98, Mealworm Sandwich. Gwen stood in front of the thugs, pointing at the designer bags in their hands. Stealing other people's stuff is wrong. Give them back. Little girl, mind your own business. Yeah, get lost. Or you're gonna regret it. The group of thugs sneered, not taking the little girl seriously in the slightest. Gwen clenched her fists, gritting her teeth as she tried to think of a way to snatch the bags back. One of the thugs, annoyed by the woman still chasing from behind, lifted the steel pipe in his hand and strode toward Gwen with a vicious glare. Get out of my way, kid! As he shouted, the silver steel pipe gleamed with a cold light, slicing through the air as it swung down toward her. Gwen reacted quickly, dodging to the side only for her foot to land squarely on a stray soy milk cup. Splat! A jet of warm, milky liquid burst out of the cup, splattering right across the nearby bun vendor's face. Startled, the vendor instinctively covered his cheek, only to burn his hand on the hot soy milk. With a pained grunt, he lashed out, kicking the bun cart in front of him with full force. Thud! The iron cart loaded with steaming buns shot forward with terrifying speed, its 4 wheels spinning wildly as it barreled straight ahead. Ah! The thug who had attacked Gwen was hit squarely by the cart, sent flying through the air before crashing to the ground in a heap, completely motionless. Gwen blinked in surprise, then looked down at the charm of luck around her neck. It was glowing again, golden light shimmering across its surface. Cool! The remaining thugs exchanged uneasy looks before their faces twisted in rage. They charged at her together, eyes filled with malice. Damn brat! You hurt my buddy. You're dead. Don't get cocky just because you got lucky. As the thugs surrounded her, Gwen straightened her stance, a confident smile tugging at her lips. Come on, then. Let's see how unlucky you can get. Watch this, the red-haired thug snarled, baring his teeth as he swung a powerful punch at her. The air whistled from the sheer force of it. Gwen's eyes flickered, and she prepared to dodge. But before the thug even reached her, his foot slipped out from under him. He stumbled backward, landing hard on his rear with a loud thud, his face twisting in agony. The sight left Grey Matter, who had been watching from a short distance, completely dumbfounded. Looks like I don't even need to get involved, he muttered, standing at the edge of the basketball court with a shrug. Thud! Suddenly, a flash of green light burst from behind him. Roar! A fierce, beastly roar echoed overhead. Grey Matter looked up to see a massive, fiery red creature soaring past, blocking out the golden morning sun. Wild Mutt! Grey Matter scratched his head and sat cross-legged on the ground. With the charm of luck and Ben transformed into Wild Mutt, taking down a few street punks was hardly a problem. After transforming, Lucian felt his mind working sharper and faster, his thoughts clear and composed, more rational than ever. By now, only 4 thugs were left standing. The other 2 were already out of commission. "Damn it, you witch!" the blue-haired thug growled, eyes flashing with rage. He hurled the broadsword in his hand and charged straight at Gwen. Gwen froze, stunned. She had never faced such a deadly weapon before. The charm of luck hanging from her neck shimmered faintly with golden light. Roar! Just as the sharp blade was about to strike her, Wild Mutt lunged forward. With a powerful bite, he clamped down on the whistling weapon and landed firmly on all fours, turning to face the remaining thugs. Roar! The deafening roar, combined with Wild Mutt's savage appearance, sent the rest of the thugs scrambling. They grabbed their injured friends and bolted, too terrified to look back. Gwen noticed the Omnitrix symbol on Wild Mutt's arm and instantly recognized him as Ben. Lucian's transformations always had the emblem on his chest. "Nice work!" Gwen patted Wild Mutt's fur, as if giving a dog an approving head rub. Feeling the odd gesture, Wild Mutt growled playfully and kicked up a storm of dust and sand, covering Gwen's face completely. "Ah! You doofus!" she coughed, waving her hands helplessly as the dust made her choke. Wild Mutt grinned smugly, then dashed off toward the rust bucket with long, powerful strides. But just as he reached the road, the roar of an engine split the air. A purple Lamborghini came barreling down the street, tearing through the air at breakneck speed and heading straight for Wild Mutt's side. Clearly, the car was way over the speed limit. Wild Mutt's eyes widened. He sprang upward like a coiled spring, leaping high into the air. Almost at the same moment, the Lamborghini thundered past below, its wind pressure slashing across Wild Mutt's face, stinging his skin. "Watch out!" came Grey Matter's sharp voice from nearby. Boom! Before Wild Mutt could even land properly, a Rolls-Royce Phantom slammed into him from the side. He was sent flying like a kite with its string cut, tumbling across the ground before finally crashing into the grassy median. Shaking his head, Wild Mutt got back on his feet, growled lowly, and took off running back toward the rust bucket. "Ben!" Gwen shouted, dashing across the road to chase after him. Grey Matter, still sitting by the basketball court, shrugged and tapped the Omnitrix on his chest. A flash of green light burst out as his small body swelled like a balloon, transforming into XLR8. Swish! Moving as light as the wind, XLR8 turned into a blue streak, arriving inside the rust bucket in the blink of an eye. He tapped the Omnitrix lightly again, reverting to his human form Lucian. A few seconds later, Wild Mutt came running back, with Gwen sprinting close behind. By that time, Grandpa Max was already up, preparing a protein-rich breakfast. His expression was kind, a gentle smile crossing his face now and then. "When Lucian and the others get back from basketball, they'll be starving," he chuckled. "Perfect timing to try my rice worm sandwiches." Suddenly, he heard a sound behind him. His face hardened as his hand instinctively reached for his waist only to find it empty. He sighed softly and turned around only to see Lucian standing there. "Lucian, back already?" Grandpa Max blinked in surprise. "Where are Ben and Gwen?" "They're right behind me." No sooner had he spoken than a low growl from Wild Mutt and Gwen's shouting came from outside. Moments later, the two burst into the RV. "Ben, Gwen, what happened?" Grandpa asked, puzzled. Gwen quickly explained everything that had just happened. "That was too dangerous, Gwen," Grandpa said sternly. "You can't be so reckless next time. You're just a little girl." "Relax, Grandpa. I'm the lucky girl," Gwen said with a light laugh. "Oh yeah? Miss Lucky here nearly got me run over," Ben grumbled, crossing his arms in irritation. Gwen huffed. That's what you get for teasing me. Karma's real. Lucian spoke up calmly. It seems the charm of Luck's power is unpredictable for now, at least, we can't control it. When they fought the thugs earlier, Ben's Omnitrix had jammed, and Lucian had been forced into his weakest form, grey matter. If that had happened in a real battle, it could have been fatal. Lucian suspected that the charm of luck didn't create fortune on its own. Instead, it absorbed the luck of those nearby and redirected it toward its wearer. While it greatly benefited the one who wore it, it drained the fortune of everyone around them, potentially causing dangerous consequences. All right, kids, enough of that for now, Grandpa said, waving his hand dismissively. Let's eat breakfast first. These rice worm sandwiches are one of a kind, can't find them anywhere else. Chapter 99, Chapter 99, The Haunted House. Grandpa set a tray of his special sandwiches on the table. Between the bread layers squirmed a dense cluster of white rice worms, writhing non-stop enough to make Lucian's scalp prickle. Oh man, gross. Ben grimaced in horror. Grandpa, I'm not hungry. Maybe later. Same here, Gwen added quickly. She'd rather face down dangerous villains than eat anything Grandpa cooked. Grandpa's expression darkened instantly, just as he was about to speak. Zzzt. A faint crackle came from the Rust Bucket's radio, followed by a male news reporter's voice. Strange things happen every year, but this year's especially bizarre. Breaking news: an old, famous haunted house in the city is reportedly experiencing real paranormal activity. Over a dozen tourists are trapped inside, unable to escape. Local authorities have already arrived to assist in rescue efforts. We'll keep you updated as the story develops. Ben's eyes gleamed mischievously as he raised his wrist. Hero time. Let's move out, Grandpa said without hesitation, sliding into the driver's seat and firing up the engine. And me too. Gwen paused, then turned and ran back to her little wardrobe. Moments later, she slipped into the bathroom carrying a bundle of something. That dweeb, what's she up to now? Ben muttered, shrugging as he tore open a bag of Sumo Slammers cereal. About half an hour later, the Rust Bucket pulled up to their destination. The ancient mansion loomed before them, radiating an eerie, bone-chilling presence even from afar. No wonder it was known as the city's most haunted house. It stood 6 stories tall, roughly 20 meters high, with pale walls draped in dead, yellowed ivy that clawed across the surface like demonic fingers reaching for their prey. Outside the gates, a heavily armed squad of law enforcement officers stood ready to breach the mansion. Suddenly, a beam of crimson light shot out from inside, striking the 2 demon statues flanking the entrance. In an instant, the stone figures came alive, their eyes igniting with blood-red light as they spread razor-sharp claws and lunged at the officers. Whoosh! 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 Startled officers unleashed a storm of yellow laser fire, bullets flying like rain. But the barrage merely bounced off their attacks, might as well have been tickling the demons. One of the statues, a goat-faced demon with a humanoid body, leapt into the crowd like a wolf among sheep, tearing through the ranks in a brutal frenzy. Within moments, over a dozen officers had fallen. Completely outmatched, the remaining squad retreated in disarray, calling for reinforcements. Once the 2 monstrous statues had cleared the area, they didn't pursue. Instead, they returned to their posts by the entrance, the red glow in their eyes fading as they froze once more into lifeless stone. Ben was the first out of the Rust Bucket, slamming down on the Omnitrix. Time for the heroes to make their entrance. Lucian and Grandpa Max followed behind. And me, came a confident, melodic voice from behind them. They turned and froze in surprise. At some point, Gwen had swapped her usual blue outfit for a sleek black combat suit. A half mask covered the upper half of her face, and her poised stance carried the unmistakable aura of a modern-day warrior. Gwen, what's going on? Grandpa asked in confusion. Call me lucky girl, Grandpa. Gwen placed her hands on her hips, her voice brimming with confidence as she strode boldly toward the haunted mansion. The others exchanged glances then followed. Recalling the statues that had come to life earlier, Lucian suspected it was the work of the charms of Bezel. Hex had to be inside. When they reached the doors, the two demon statues remained still, as though the group wasn't their target. Lucky Girl pushed open the door, her eyes narrowing sharply. Inside the grand hall, terrified tourists were bound to stone pillars. 3 rock monsters guarded them, their stony faces twisted in hostility as they scanned the room. The tourists trembled, tears streaming down their faces. They wanted to scream for help but didn't dare make a sound, afraid of provoking the monstrous guards. "Don't be afraid, everyone. Lucky Girl is here to save you." Gwen's voice rang out firm and clear as she prepared to charge forward. Hat. A thin, shadowy figure appeared by the window. Lucian turned toward the sound, unsurprised by the arrival. "Hex. You again, hey? Time for the great hero to give you a serious beating." Ben slammed his hand onto the Omnitrix after selecting an alien form. A flash of bright green light burst out. In the next instant, 4 arms launched forward like a fired cannonball, charging straight at Hex. "Stop him!" Hex barked, raising his staff and commanding the rock monsters to advance. They surged toward 4 arms, engaging him in a fierce brawl. At the same time, Lucian's body glowed with a ghostly green light as he transformed into Humongousaur. Just as he was about to charge at Hex, the sorcerer sneered. The charm on his chest pulsed violently before unleashing a crimson beam. It streaked past Humongousaur and struck the demon statues outside the door. Buzz! The once lifeless stone demons came alive, their eyes flaring red with murderous intent. With heavy, earth-shaking steps, they turned and stomped into the mansion. "Go! Tear him apart!" Hex roared, waving his staff as he directed the 2 demons toward Humongousaur. Meanwhile, Lucky Girl had silently crept up behind him. Her small fist clenched tight, she drew back her arm and swung with all her strength. But in an instant, Hex spun around with lightning speed as if he had eyes on his back and caught her by the wrist in a crushing grip. "Little girl," he said coldly, his voice low and mocking, "before absolute power, your tricks mean nothing." Chapter 100, Chapter 100, The Tunnel. "Let go of me!" Lucky Girl gasped, kicking frantically as she struggled to break free from Hex's grip. By sheer coincidence, her foot landed on a hidden trigger in the haunted house. The ancient bricks beneath them sank inward with a sharp crack. With a deafening rumble, the floor gave way. Countless chunks of stone and clouds of thick dust collapsed along with them, plunging both into the darkness below. As they fell, the charm of luck hanging at Gwen's chest flared to life, its glow surrounding her in a faint golden shimmer. By sheer fortune, every falling brick narrowly missed her, allowing her to land safely in a shadowy underground passage. Hex wasn't so lucky. A heap of heavy stones crashed down upon him, burying him completely under the rubble. Gwen looked up toward the hole above, planning to use the pile of rocks pinning Hex down as leverage to climb back up. But before she could move, threads of radiant gold light began seeping from the cracks in the debris. "The evil sorcerer's breaking free," she exclaimed. Without a moment's hesitation, Lucky Girl turned and sprinted deeper into the tunnel. Boom! The next instant, the massive stone pile exploded apart. From within the dust and rubble emerged a golden energy barrier, its surface shimmering faintly as it pulsed with dense magical power. Hex's face was dark with fury as he hovered inside the shield. His eyes flashed, and waves of Ramana surged outward, shattering every last piece of stone around him. "Charm of luck, you will never escape me." Shrouded in a sinister purple glow, Hex rose from the debris and shot down the tunnel after her, determined to reclaim the pendant. Inside the haunted house above, rows of white candles lined the walls, their blue flames flickering like ghostly will-o'-the-wisps. Grandpa Max moved quickly between the tall stone pillars, working deftly to free the terrified tourists bound there. The thrill-seekers, who had already given up hope, burst into tears of relief at the sight of their rescuers, thanking them over and over. But the moment their restraints were cut, they bolted for the exit, not daring to linger for fear of getting caught in the chaos of battle. 3 hulking rock monsters towered over the hall, their bodies etched with eerie purple markings. Each punch they threw carried immense power, making the very air wail with every swing. Ben, in his 4 arms form, was caught in a grueling fight. He narrowly dodged one monster's blow, only for the other 2 to rush him together, locking him in a crushing hold. Their combined weight pressed down so hard he could barely breathe, forcing him to struggle just to stay standing. "All right, you've officially made me mad." 4 Arms growled. He clenched his massive fists and swung with full force. The air cracked with the sound of impact as his red arms became blurs, battering the rock monster in front of him and driving it backward. Then he lunged sideways, grabbing another monster by the neck. With a brutal twist, he crushed it with a deafening crack. The golem's head flew free, its massive body convulsing twice before stiffening and collapsing to the cold stone floor. "Now you know not to mess with me, losers." But before he could celebrate, another rock monster tackled him from behind, knocking him flat as they rolled across the ground, locked in another fierce struggle. Meanwhile, the battle between Humungusor and the demonic statues was reaching its climax. The towering alien's thick, brownish-yellow skin gleamed under the dim light as he moved, raw strength radiating from every motion. One of the demonic statues, its eyes blazing blood red, lunged at him with razor-sharp claws. Humungusor roared and met it head-on, throwing a punch that collided squarely with its strike. Boom! The impact shattered the demon's claws instantly, the sheer force blasting apart its entire stone arm. Shards of rock and dust exploded through the air, scattering across the floor like a rain of gravel. Roar! The demon statue bellowed in rage, baring its jagged fangs as it clamped its massive hands onto Humungusor's shoulders, lunging to bite at his neck. In that instant, Humungusor spotted its opening. Its chest and abdomen were completely exposed. Just as the demon's fangs were about to sink into him, its entire body froze, trembling violently. From the back of its chest, a thick, powerful arm burst through. Humungusor's brute strength had punched clean through its body, leaving a gaping hole straight through its core. Roar! Another demon statue swooped down, leaping high into the air like a hunting hawk diving toward its prey. Humungusor grabbed the corpse of the first demon and hurled it upward with tremendous force. Boom! The 2 collided midair with a thunderous crash, shattering into a rain of stone shards that scattered across the hall, crumbling into dust beneath the eerie blue glow of the ghostly flames. With the demon statues destroyed, Humungusor turned and saw that 4 Arms was still in the middle of a brutal fight. 2 hulking rock monsters were trading relentless blows, their colossal fists hammering down on him from both sides. Humungusor's eyes hardened. He charged forward, swung his massive tail in a sweeping arc, and smashed one of the rock monsters into rubble, bringing the fight to a swift end. "Oh man, these rock freaks are strong," 4 Arms muttered, scratching his head. Humungusor shook his. "They're just strong, not skilled. You still need more battle experience." In terms of pure strength, these rock monsters were far weaker than the demon statues. Their huge size gave them brute force, but it came at the cost of speed. Slow, clumsy puppets with power but no finesse. Ben, still in his 4 Arms form, had been too focused on overpowering them directly. Going head-to-head against 3 tireless, pain-immune golems naturally left him struggling. "Looks like Gwen's gone down the tunnel." Grandpa Max stood beside the collapsed opening, his expression grim. "That evil sorcerer went after her. Then we'd better move fast, Gwen's in danger." Without another word, Grandpa Max jumped down into the dark tunnel below. Humungusor and 4 Arms exchanged a glance, then sprinted forward and leapt in after him. In the cold, silent tunnel below, a tense chase was already unfolding. "Lucky girl, half her face hidden behind a black mask, moved quietly through the shadows. Her dark combat suit blended almost perfectly with the walls around her. The passage was dim, lit only by the faint flicker of scattered candles. Gwen breathed heavily, eyes darting around as she searched for any possible exit. She knew she couldn't take Hex head-on. Her best chance was to find a way out and regroup with her cuz and the others. Bidi Botanaka. A familiar voice suddenly echoed from the wall beside her. Boom! Before Gwen could react, the stone wall exploded outward. The force of the blast threw her backward violently. From the dust stepped Hex, clutching his grey wand, flames flickering ominously around his body. Lucky girl, he sneered, you can't escape me. He looked down at Gwen lying on the ground and began chanting an ancient incantation. With a low rumble, thick vines burst from the floor made entirely of stone. They twisted and writhed like serpents, lashing wildly in every direction. Under Hex's control, the stone vines shot toward Gwen all at once. Water Dragon Soul. In an instant, a roaring water dragon materialized in front of her, its serpentine form twisting and coiling as it surged forward to meet the storm of stone vines head-on.